Never could I have imagined that our paths would cross again, leading me to uncover a shocking truth. My name is Ashley, and I'm 35 years old. For the past decade, I dedicated myself to being a full-time wife, supporting my husband Sam with unwavering dedication. Though we never had children, we always believed our love was more than sufficient. A fulfilling life didn't hinge solely on parenthood. But then, Sam changed. Looking back, maybe it was his true nature finally surfacing. You see, my parents divorced when I was young, and I was raised by my father. During my teens, he confided in me the reason for their split: different personalities. At the time, it seemed trivial to end a marriage over such differences. But as I grew older, I painfully realized how crucial compatibility is. This reality hit harder when my father tragically died in a car accident last year. My father, a craftsman at heart, ran a successful construction business until his last days. Even at 70, he was revered for his skills, especially in building churches without nails, a technique admired by his clients and community alike. He would always cook for me after work with his dexterous hands, nurturing me with love and care. He often said, "What's important is not what you get in return from others, but how much joy you can give to them." I strive to live by his words, devoting myself to Sam. However, after my father's sudden death, Sam's demeanor changed drastically, revealing a side of him I had never seen before. Our conversations increasingly revolved around my father's inheritance. "With your dad's money, we can build our dream home," Sam would say, eyes gleaming with a newfound ambition. Yet I had never intended to use that money for anything other than our retirement savings. My father had worked tirelessly to leave us a secure future, not for us to squander it on immediate desires. I saw the way Sam looked at the inheritance with an almost desperate hunger, and found myself downplaying its value. "We can't afford to buy a house with that," I lied, hoping to preserve what my father had intended. Sam's reaction was unexpected. He seemed devastated, as if his world was crumbling. It was then I realized how much money could alter a person. I began to doubt if Sam had stayed with me solely for my father's inheritance. However, about 6 months later, on a weekend while I was doing chores and Sam was watching TV, he spoke up with an unusual seriousness. "Oh, I have something to tell you," he said, and for the first time since he proposed, his tone was grave. A chill ran down my spine as I sat across from him, watching a tear roll down his cheek. "What is it?" I asked, my voice catching. "I realize I've made you feel like I'm only interested in your dad's money," Sam began. "We don't have children, so we should be enjoying our time together, but I haven't put in the effort. Thank you for always being there, even though I leave all the housework to you and we rarely go out on my days off." His words stirred a mix of emotions in me, joy at his acknowledgement and regret for ever doubting him. Tears of both joy and remorse streamed down my face as Sam gently hugged me, his eyes reflecting the same warmth that drew me to him in the beginning. In that moment, I felt deeply grateful that I had married him. From then on, Sam changed his ways. Despite his fatigue after work, he started helping me with chores regularly. On his days off, he even experimented with cooking dishes he had never tried before. He took my occasional strictness in stride, and each time he overcame a new challenge, my heart swelled with pride. We began living each day as if we were newlyweds again. But then, 6 months later, things took an unexpected turn when a letter arrived in our mailbox. "Here, this letter was in the mailbox today. It's for you, Sam," I said, handing him the envelope. Carefully opening it with a pair of scissors, Sam exclaimed, "Wow, it's been 20 years since I graduated from high school. I've been invited several times, but I never went." Inside was an invitation to a reunion from his high school friends. I knew Sam had been invited to these reunions numerous times since we married, but he always declined out of consideration for me, knowing I had no ties to his classmates. This time, however, I encouraged him earnestly. "You should definitely go this time. Don't worry about me. Go and enjoy yourself with your old friends," I insisted. After some hesitation, Sam finally agreed to attend the reunion, which was scheduled for a month later. He began preparing for it, a rare occasion for him since he seldom socialized outside our relationship. His wardrobe lacked stylish clothes, and his hairstyle was usually unkempt. He explained that he felt no pressure to dress up around me because he could be completely himself. I've never been particularly fashion-savvy, believing that inner qualities matter more than appearances. However, with the reunion approaching, our outings together turned into regular visits to men's clothing stores. I realized Sam's sudden interest in fashion was spurred by the upcoming event. Since the invitation arrived, Sam started coming home late from work. Normally punctual, he would arrive by 7 p.m., but it became common for him to return past 9 p.m., citing overtime. I trusted his explanation, though I hadn't seen our financial statements recently. Sam managed them, and felt uneasy about questioning him. 3 days before the reunion, with only 2 weeks left, Sam came home and asked me to sit with him in the living room. "Michelle, my sister," he began. "She just broke up with her boyfriend and has been staying with a friend. But the friend's husband is returning next month, and she'll have nowhere to stay. I need to help my sister out." I understood Sam's concern for his sister very well. I have a younger brother who currently works overseas, and even after my marriage, I often worry about him and keep in touch. He's reliable, much like our father was, but sometimes too trusting and easily taken advantage of. Protecting him feels like my duty. So when Sam asked for help with his sister, I empathized deeply, but since our wedding, I hadn't met or spoken to her. I hesitated to use my father's inheritance for someone I barely knew, so I kept quiet about it. "Didn't your father love helping people? Why won't you help my sister?" Sam pleaded, confirming my suspicions that he wanted to use the inheritance. He desperately urged me to allocate a portion to Michelle. However, I remained steadfast in my decision. "As I told you before, I have no plans to use my father's inheritance. I've decided to save it for when we might truly need it," I insisted firmly. Sam muttered something and retreated to his room, avoiding me since then. We shared meals together, but conversation dwindled to a minimum. No matter how cheerful my attempts at conversation, a cold atmosphere lingered between us. 2 days later, I was browsing cakes in a pastry shop, hoping to lift Sam's spirits. It was then that I felt a familiar gaze and turned around. "Dear, is it you, Ashley?" stood my ex-boyfriend from middle school. Despite 2 decades apart, we recognized each other immediately, which brought a burst of laughter from me. We had lost touch after high school, and I had no idea what he'd been doing. Meeting him here, back in our hometown, was unexpected. After buying our cakes, we decided to catch up at a nearby cafe. "Ashley, you haven't changed a bit," he remarked with a smile. "Neither have you. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, I replied, feeling the exchange refreshing and out of the ordinary. We chatted and laughed for a while, reminiscing about old times. However, when the topic shifted to love stories, his expression suddenly darkened, leaving me unsure how to respond. "I recently broke up with my girlfriend, and all I do is regret it," he began. "Why did you break up?" I asked, curious to hear his side. "I couldn't provide her the emotional support she needed," he admitted. For a moment, I wondered if she was cheating, but what she said next resonated deeply with me. He went on to explain that his ex-girlfriend had a fragile constitution, unable to work long hours, and thus only held part-time jobs. Despite knowing this when they started dating, as he found success in the marketing industry, she struggled to keep pace. "I could provide a luxurious life," he told her, and reassured her that she shouldn't blame herself for not working as much. However, she never seemed to believe him, constantly in tears. Listening, I felt a pang of empathy for his ex-girlfriend. "You were just boasting about your achievements and putting pressure on her," I interjected. "She probably didn't want a lavish lifestyle. She likely felt lonely because you were too absorbed in your work." His busy schedule meant he only went home twice a week and didn't text her daily. Hearing this, I couldn't help but raise my voice. How did she tolerate that? If I were her, I would have ended things too. No matter how busy you are, neglect like that is unacceptable. You knew her limitations. Why didn't you care for her more? As the truth sunk in, I couldn't help but draw parallels to my own marriage, especially around our 3rd year together. I was struggling with infertility treatments and sank into a deep depression, both physically and mentally drained. Despite this, my husband, who claimed to be occupied with work, never once checked in to see if I was okay. After I finally expressed my pain, he apologized and made efforts to improve. The hurt from that time lingers painfully in my memory. Seeing how desperate I was, my ex-boyfriend seemed to realize his own mistakes. He confessed he wanted to reconcile with his ex but lacked the courage to act. Wanting to help him, I listened to his grievances about my husband, and we spent time together consoling each other. At least that's what I believed. However, a shocking revelation left me stunned. My ex revealed that his older brother's wife was extremely cold-hearted despite being a stay-at-home wife. She neglected household chores and wasted money on nights out, pushing him towards considering divorce. Shocked by this story, I sympathized deeply. That's awful. I can't believe he's putting up with her, I commiserated. Yeah, that's why he's secretly planning to let loose at an upcoming reunion, my ex explained. The word reunion struck a chord. Comparing details about his brother's situation and my own husband's behavior, a shocking truth emerged. His recent ex-girlfriend was none other than my husband's sister, Michelle. We were both left speechless by this bizarre coincidence. Sharing everything about our troubled marriages, my ex became visibly upset on my behalf. Your husband is lying. He's using his sister to gain access to your father's wealth, he concluded angrily. We decided to confront my husband the following day. Knowing his usual work hours, we tracked his movements. He left his office 10 minutes later than usual and headed towards an unfamiliar mountain lodge. There, we witnessed him being warmly greeted by a woman, clear evidence of his infidelity. Realizing how hard it would be to gather solid proof ourselves, we opted to hire a private investigator. Upon our return to the lodge, we discovered another unforgivable truth. My husband had purchased the lodge for $70,000 in cash, hiding this financial move from me. To add insult to injury, a woman with children was living there, seemingly to repay his debt. It became clear he was planning to exploit my ex-girlfriend, who is his own sister, in some sinister scheme. I'm glad you didn't give him the money, Ashley. If you had, it would undoubtedly have been spent on his mistress, my ex-boyfriend remarked solemnly. You're right. I never imagined he would hide such a large sum from me. It feels like he's mocking me, I replied bitterly. Maybe we should confront him together, I suggested. My ex-boyfriend agreed, and together we reached out to his ex-girlfriend. Tearfully, she asked why he had contacted her, but when we revealed what we had discovered, she immediately wanted to meet me. The next day, the three of us shared our first meal together at a family restaurant, our eyes bright with relief at our long-awaited reunion. I'm sorry I haven't seen you since the wedding. My brother told me not to meet you because you hate me, Michelle said, her voice filled with remorse. Wait a minute, I never said I hated you. I even suggested to Sam that we should go on a trip together with you, I responded, the realization dawning that Sam had been the one to create a rift between Michelle and me. From the beginning of our marriage, Sam had been deceiving me and I blamed myself for trusting him. Tears of regret flowed uncontrollably. Seeing me in such distress must have stirred deep emotions in both of them. In the quiet moments that followed, the three of us shared tears together. Speaking on behalf of my ex-boyfriend, I conveyed his feelings to his ex-girlfriend. She admitted her own flaws, saying, I had a strange kind of pride. I ended up envying my boyfriend's success at work, and as a result, I couldn't be honest and rely on him. It was a sobering realization that a small misunderstanding or assumption between a man and a woman could lead to significant tragedy. From that moment on, they vowed to communicate with greater understanding and consideration for each other. Eventually, they reconciled and got back together. I'm relieved, I finally admitted, feeling a weight lifting off my shoulders. I had been pondering what to do if things didn't work out, but I'm relieved that everything turned out fine in the end. Despite the trouble my brother has caused, thank you for helping me. Now it's our turn to support you, my ex-boyfriend said sincerely. 3 days later, the moment arrived to take action. While my husband cheerfully headed off to his reunion, I began packing my belongings. The reunion was set at an inn about 2 hours away by car, with an overnight stay planned until the next evening. Thanks to the assistance of my ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend, I had extra time to carefully sort through and discard the photos that once held cherished memories with my husband. It struck me how love can change. It felt oddly refreshing to let go despite the sentimental value attached to those pictures. In our previous discussions, we decided to sell our house first. It was heartbreaking to part with this place that held so many memories of my father, but I knew he would understand. The following morning, I arranged for a moving company to transport our belongings to my husband's parents' house, accompanied by my ex-boyfriend and his girlfriend. We went to confront my husband and his parents with the truth. Upon hearing our account, my husband's parents were furious. We didn't raise a son who deceives his sister and wife like this, they exclaimed, pledging to sever ties with him while embracing me as their true daughter. That day, we spent a pleasant time together at their house. The next day, I received a call from my husband, announcing the end of the reunion and his return. As expected, his voice turned confrontational the moment I put him on speakerphone. You're not going to give me the house even though I'm trying to take care of my sister, he demanded. No, I'm not, I replied firmly. Then get out of the house by the end of today, he retorted. In the past, I might have been reduced to tears by such words, but this time, I remained composed. I now had strong allies in my ex-boyfriend and my husband's family. Realizing his attempts to regain control were futile, my husband shifted tactics, trying to appease me with pleasantries. However, it was too late for reconciliation. Hours later, he called again, panicked and breathless. Where did you go? There's only my stuff left. What's happening? Suddenly, his sister's voice pierced through the phone, accusing him. It's disgusting how you're trying to turn Ashley's house into a love nest with your mistress. Confusion gripped my husband, and the room fell silent for a moment. After a brief pause, he erupted in a voice tinged with disbelief. Michelle, is that you? Why are you with Ashley? What's going on? I have nothing to say to a brother who betrays his wife without hesitation. Anyway, I'm coming home now, Michelle replied icily, ending the call abruptly. An hour later, she returned with divorce papers signed by my husband Sam. That marked the end. Our family home would be sold in 3 days, and I would receive alimony from Sam. It was a chaotic turn of events, but I believed it was for the best. Since then, I have been staying at my ex-husband's family home, focusing on studying for the caregiving certification I had always wanted to pursue. Meanwhile, my ex-husband sold his log house and now lives quietly in a small apartment with the woman he had an affair with. I feel refreshed and content, knowing that if she's satisfied with him, they can have each other. I am confident that a better person than my ex-husband will enter my life. Keep going, Ashley. I remind myself daily, embracing the fulfilling life I now lead.
The call came on what should have been my happiest day of the year, my 10th wedding anniversary. I was arranging roses in our dining room, humming to myself, when my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in a decade. My mother's number. My name is Brinley, and the last time I saw my parents was the day I told them I was marrying Javier. I still remember my mother's face turning to stone, my father's thunderous silence. "You'll destroy everything we've built," they said. "This isn't what we raised you for." "Brinley," my mother's voice crackled through the speaker, sounding older, frailer than I remembered. "Please don't hang up." I gripped the phone tighter, my other hand frozen mid-arrangement. "How did you get this number?" "Sadie, your sister." She thought it was time. Of course. Sadie, my younger sister, the eternal peacemaker. She'd kept in touch over the years, secretly meeting me for coffee, sending photos of her kids, always careful to keep it from our parents. "What do you want, Mum?" The words came out sharper than intended, but 10 years of silence does that to a person. "We need to meet. Your father and I. We need to talk to you about something important." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Important? Like my wedding wasn't important enough for you to attend?" "Brinley, please." Her voice cracked. "Things are different now. We're in trouble." The doorbell rang and I heard Javier's voice calling from the hallway. "Mi amor, the caterers are here." "Mum, I have to go. We're having an anniversary party tonight." 10 years, she whispered. "Has it been that long?" "Yes, 10 years since you and Dad chose your precious reputation over your daughter." We were wrong. The words hung in the air, stunning me into silence. "Please, meet us tomorrow. The Carter family store? It's failing. We need your help." I nearly dropped the phone. The store, my family's pride and joy for 3 generations. The reason my parents couldn't accept Javier, a newcomer without the right pedigree to join their legacy. "Brinley?" Javier appeared in the doorway, his dark eyes concerned. "Everything okay?" I held up a finger, turning back to the phone. "Tomorrow, noon. But not at the store. Meet me at Riverside Cafe." "Thank you," my mother breathed. "We'll be there." I ended the call just as Javier wrapped his arms around me. Was that my mother? I leaned back against his chest, letting his warmth steady me. The family business is failing, and suddenly they need our help. "Our help?" He raised an eyebrow. "The same help they rejected when I offered to modernize their operations before the wedding?" "Karma's a funny thing, isn't it?" I turned to face him. "The successful consulting firm you built, the one they said would never work, might be their only hope." "What are you thinking?" He knew that look in my eyes. I'm thinking it's time they faced their mistakes, publicly. I smiled, but it wasn't entirely kind. They wanted to hide me away, pretend their daughter hadn't married outside their precious social circle. Now they'll have to acknowledge us, accept us if they want our help. Careful, mi amor. Javier touched my cheek. Revenge isn't always sweet. This isn't about revenge. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. It's about justice, making things right. The doorbell rang again, and voices filled the hallway. Our anniversary guests arriving. I heard Mateo's booming laugh, saw Angela's silver hair through the window. We should get ready, Javier said, but he didn't move. Are you sure you want to do this? I thought about the day my parents turned their backs on me, the empty chairs at our wedding, the birth of our first child, announced through Sadie because our parents wouldn't accept the news directly. A decade of holidays spent creating new traditions because the old ones had been ripped away. Yes, I said firmly. Tomorrow we'll hear what they have to say. But this time, we set the terms. Javier kissed my forehead. Together? Together. I squeezed his hand, then straightened my shoulders. Now, let's go celebrate 10 years of proving them wrong. As we walked toward our waiting guests, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. My parents had been so worried about Javier destroying their legacy. Instead, he might be the only one who could save it. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. I arrived at Riverside Cafe 20 minutes early, choosing a corner table that gave me a clear view of the entrance. My hands shook slightly as I arranged the manila folder containing our company's portfolio. A decade of success laid out in crisp numbers and glossy photos. The bell above the door chimed, and there they were. My mother, her hair more silver than I remembered, clutching her designer purse like a shield. My father, shoulders slightly stooped now, but still carrying himself with that unmistakable pride. They spotted me immediately. Brinley. My mother's voice wavered. She moved as if to hug me, then stopped herself, settling into the chair across from me instead. You look wonderful. Success agrees with me. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Would you like to order first, or should we get straight to business? Always direct, my father said, a ghost of approval in his tone. Just like you, I cut him off. Let's not pretend we're here for a family reunion. A waitress appeared and we ordered coffee. The silence stretched until she returned with our drinks. The store is 3 months away from bankruptcy, my father finally said, his hands wrapped tightly around his cup. Everything we've built, everything my father built. And his father before him, I finished. I remember the speech, Dad. The one about legacy and tradition. The one you gave right before you told me I was no longer welcome in the family. My mother flinched. We were wrong, Brinley. So terribly wrong. Were you? Or are you only saying that because you need something from me now? We've lost touch with our customers, my father continued, ignoring the tension. The world's changed, and we haven't kept up. I pulled out my tablet, pulling up the store's public financial records. Your online presence is non-existent, your inventory system is outdated, and your main competitor is about to open a store 3 blocks away. They exchanged surprised looks. You've been keeping tabs on us? My mother asked. I keep tabs on all potential clients. I smiled thinly, though I never expected you'd become one. Will you help us? My father reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. Your company, Javier's expertise in digital transformation, your marketing skills, we need you. Both of us, I raised an eyebrow. The same Javier you said wasn't good enough for your daughter, for your precious family business? Yes, my mother whispered. Both of you. I opened the manila folder, sliding across a document. These are our standard consulting terms, but for you, I have additional conditions. What conditions? My father's pride flickered back to life. First, a public announcement of our partnership. Not just a press release, but a formal event. You'll acknowledge Javier and me as your daughter and son-in-law, and you'll apologize for your past actions. Brinley, please, my mother started, but I held up my hand. Second, you'll attend family dinners, monthly, at our house. You'll get to know your grandchildren, the ones you've pretended don't exist for 10 years. My father's face reddened. You're using our desperation to force... To force what, Dad? Basic human decency? Family connection? The things you denied us because of your prejudice? We'll do it, my mother said suddenly. My father turned to her in shock. We'll do whatever it takes. We've lost too much already. I pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. Call this number tomorrow. It's Javier's direct line. He'll handle the initial consultation. You won't be there? My mother asked, looking stricken. Oh, I'll be involved. But first, Javier needs to assess whether your business can actually be saved, and you need to prove you can treat him with the respect he deserves. I stood, gathering my things. One more thing. Sadie told me you're having Sunday dinner this weekend. I expect an invitation. For all of us. The children too? My mother's eyes lit up despite herself. Yes, it's time they met their grandparents, assuming you're ready to be grandparents. As I turned to leave, my father called out, Brinley, wait! I paused. Are you doing this to punish us? I looked back at them, these proud, stubborn people who had shaped me in more ways than I cared to admit. No, Dad. I'm doing this to fix what's broken. All of it. Walking out of the cafe, I pulled out my phone and dialed Javier. How did it go? He asked. They agreed to everything, but you were right. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about healing. Ready for Sunday dinner? I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Not even close, but it's time, isn't it? Si, mi amo. It's time. The doorbell rang at exactly 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. My daughter Sophia, 8 years old and vibrating with excitement, raced to answer it. Wait, I called, smoothing my dress nervously. Let Mommy get it. But it wasn't my parents at the door. It was Sadie, holding a bottle of wine and wearing an apologetic smile. Thought you might need reinforcements. Aunt Sadie! Sophia launched herself forward. Behind her, 6-year-old Marco peeked around the corner. There's my favourite niece and nephew. Sadie hugged Sophia, then beckoned to Marco. Come here, shy boy. I brought cookies. You're early, I said, taking the wine. On purpose. Sadie followed me to the kitchen, the kids trailing behind. Mum's been ironing Dad's shirt 3 times. They're terrified. Good, I muttered, then caught myself as Sophia looked up questioningly. Why don't you two go show Aunt Sadie your new playroom? Once the kids were out of earshot, Sadie grabbed my arm. Listen, there's something you should know. Angela visited Mom yesterday. Angela? Dad's old business partner's wife? She told them about River Valley Mall's expansion plans. They're not just opening one store near ours, they're planning to take over the whole district. Mom and Dad's store won't survive 6 months, let alone a year. I leaned against the counter, processing this. That's why they're so desperate. There's more. Sadie lowered her voice. Angela's son works for River Valley. She said they specifically targeted our area because they knew the store was vulnerable. They're using Mom and Dad's outdated systems against them. The doorbell rang again. This time, there was no mistaking the formal measured chimes. My parents' signature ring. Showtime. Sadie squeezed my hand. I opened the door to find my mother clutching a casserole dish, my father standing stiffly behind her. Welcome, I said, stepping aside. We brought your favourite, Mom said quickly. Chicken enchiladas. I got the recipe from that cooking show you used to love. The one you said was too ethnic for your kitchen. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Dad's face tightened, but Mom pressed on. I was wrong about a lot of things, Brinley. The show, the food, everything. Abuela! Sophia appeared in the hallway, Marco half hidden behind her. That's what you are, right? Our abuela? Mom's eyes filled with tears. She set down the casserole dish with trembling hands and knelt, opening her arms. Yes, mi querida. I'm your abuela. Sophia looked at me for permission. I nodded, and she stepped forward into my mother's embrace. Marco followed cautiously. And I'm your abuelo, Dad said gruffly, his voice thick. No, came a firm voice from behind us. Javier stood in the doorway, his expression hard. You haven't earned that title yet. The kids will call you Mr. Carter until you prove you deserve more." A tense silence fell. Then Dad nodded slowly. "Fair enough." "Dinner's ready," I announced, ushering everyone toward the dining room. "Sophia, Marco, wash your hands, please." As the kids scampered off, Javier pulled out chairs for my parents. "Before we eat, I should tell you, I've reviewed your preliminary financials. The situation is worse than you've admitted." "How did you—" Dad started. "I have connections at the bank," Javier cut in. "If you want our help, no more secrets. River Valley Mall isn't just your competition. They're planning to destroy you." Mom's hand flew to her throat. "Angela told you." "No, my research team did. The question is, why didn't you tell us the full truth?" "Pride," Dad admitted quietly. "The same pride that cost us our daughter for 10 years. "Well, pride won't save your store," I said, serving the enchiladas. "But we might be able to, if you're willing to make real changes." "Whatever it takes," Mum said, watching Sophia and Marco return to the table. "We've missed too much already." The rest of dinner passed in a strange dance of awkward pauses and cautious conversations. The kids, oblivious to the undertones, chatted happily about school and their upcoming soccer games. As my parents prepared to leave, Mum hugged me tightly. "The enchiladas weren't as good as yours," she whispered. "Will you teach me?" "Baby steps, Mom," I said, but I was smiling. "Let's start with saving the store." After they left, Sadie lingered. "That went better than expected." "Maybe," I said, watching Javier put the kids to bed through the window. "But the real test starts tomorrow when we begin dismantling everything they've built to save what matters most." "The store?" "No," I shook my head. "The family." "This is worse than I imagined," Javier said, standing in the middle of my parents' store. Ancient inventory systems hummed in the corner and dust collected on half-empty shelves. "They're still using software from 2005. I ran my finger along a shelf, leaving a clean line in the dust. "Remember when you offered to upgrade their systems before our wedding? And your father said he'd rather close the store than let an outsider change things?" Matteo appeared from the stockroom, tablet in hand. "Well, he almost got his wish." Matteo, our head of operations, had been my friend since college and Javier's right-hand man in the business. He knew our history, knew exactly how much this project meant. "The inventory's a mess," he continued. "They're ordering stock based on gut feeling rather than data. And their supplier contracts," he whistled low. "They're being robbed blind." The bell above the door chimed and my parents walked in. Mum's eyes were red-rimmed, Dad's jaw set tight. "We've been here all morning," I said, gesturing to the scattered papers and open laptops. "Want to hear the truth?" "All of it," Dad said, though he looked like he'd rather run. "You're 3 weeks away from complete collapse, not 3 months, Javier said bluntly. "Your suppliers are overcharging you by 40%. Your inventory system is hemorrhaging money. And your customer base has dropped by 65% in the last year alone." Mum sank into a nearby chair. "But how? We've run this store the same way for—" "That's exactly the problem," I cut in. "The world changed, but you didn't, just like with me and Javier." "Brinley," Dad warned, but I pressed on. "No, Dad. You need to hear this. You rejected change in your personal life, and you rejected it in business. Now both are falling apart." "We can fix the business," Matteo interjected smoothly, pulling up projections on his tablet. "But it'll require complete modernization. New systems, new marketing, new everything." "How much?" Dad asked. $500,000, minimum," Javier said, "plus our standard consulting fees." "We don't have that kind of money," Mom whispered. "No," I agreed. "But Javier and I do. We're offering to buy in as partners. 51% stake." The colour drained from Dad's face. "Majority control? You want to take over my father's store?" "I want to save it," I corrected. "But we can't do that if you fight us every step of the way. No more pride, remember?" The door chimed again. Angela walked in, her face falling when she saw us all gathered. "Angela," Mom stood quickly. We're in the middle of something. I can see that. Angela's eyes darted between us. I just came to check. That is, I wanted to see how you were doing. Spying for your son at River Valley? Matteo asked casually. Angela's gasp was all the confirmation we needed. Mom turned to her, betrayal written across her face. You've been feeding them information? Desiree? Angela backed toward the door. They offered to help Tommy get promoted if— Get out! Dad's voice was ice. 20 years of friendship, and you've been helping them destroy us. After Angela fled, silence fell heavy in the store. Finally, Dad turned to Javier. 51%? Yes, but with conditions beyond what Brinley already stated. Javier pulled out a contract. You'll both take courses in modern retail management. You'll attend weekly family dinners, not just monthly. And you'll publicly apologize to Brinley at the reopening ceremony. When? Mom asked quietly. 3 weeks, I said. We'll close for renovations, rebuild everything from the ground up, just like we're rebuilding this family. Dad picked up the contract, his hands shaking slightly. We were wrong about you, Javier. About everything. I know, Javier said simply. The question is, what are you going to do about it now? Dad looked at Mom, who nodded tearfully. He picked up a pen and signed, then passed it to her to do the same. Welcome to the new Carter family store, Matteo grinned, though we might want to update that name too. McGregor Carter Marketplace, I suggested, blending traditions just like our family. Dad opened his mouth as if to object, then stopped himself. Yes, he said instead. That sounds right. As Matteo and Javier began discussing renovation plans, Mom pulled me aside. We don't deserve this second chance. No, I agreed. But family isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to try again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Through the window, I could see River Valley's new sign being installed down the street. They thought they were circling a dying business, but they didn't know what was coming. They didn't know about the strength of a family finally learning to bend instead of break. These numbers don't add up, I muttered, spreading financial documents across our dining room table. It was past midnight, but something had been nagging at me all day. Javier, come look at this. He leaned over my shoulder, frowning at the papers. The supplier contracts? No, the bank statements. Look at these withdrawals from last year. I pointed to a series of transactions. Large amounts, all going to the same account, but they're not listed in the official expenses. Could be tax evasion? Javier suggested, but I shook my head. My father's too straight-laced for that. Something else is going on. My phone buzzed. Sadie calling at this hour, I answered immediately. You need to come to the store, she said without preamble. Now, Mum and Dad are here, and they're fighting with someone. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to see lights blazing inside the closed store. Through the windows, I could see my parents facing off against a man I didn't recognize. That's Richard from the bank, Javier whispered as we approached the door. Their loan officer. We walked in to catch the middle of the argument. You promised us more time, Dad was saying, his face red with anger. That was before you brought in outside investors, Richard shot back. The terms of our agreement were clear. What agreement? I demanded, making them all jump. Mum turned pale. Brinley, you shouldn't be here. What agreement? I repeated harder this time. Richard smiled unpleasantly. Should I tell her, or would you like to? We took out a private loan last year, Dad said quietly. Against the store. From? River Valley's parent company, Richard said smugly, with terms that give them first right of purchase if the store changes ownership, which you just triggered with your little partnership deal. The pieces clicked into place, the mysterious withdrawals, Angela's surveillance, all of it. You set them up, I said to Richard. You knew they were desperate and you gave them a poison pill. Business is business, he shrugged. River Valley wants this location and now they'll get it. Unless you can come up with $3 million by the end of the week. $3 million? Javier exclaimed. The loan was for $500,000. Plus interest and penalties. Richard pulled out a document. All legally binding. Get out, I said quietly. Now. After he left, I turned to my parents. When were you going to tell us? We thought we could fix it, Mom whispered. We were ashamed. Ashamed? I laughed bitterly. Like you were ashamed of me. Is that why you keep hiding things? That's not fair, Dad protested. No, what's not fair is asking for our help while holding back information that could sink everything. I was shouting now. We invested our money, our time, our trust in you. Mi amor, Javier touched my arm. Let's focus on solutions. Solutions? I threw up my hands. They need $3 million in 5 days. Actually, came a new voice. They don't. We all turned to see Matteo in the doorway, holding his tablet. I've been doing some digging since those numbers didn't look right to me either. Richard's been cooking the books at the bank. He's been working with River Valley to force small businesses into bad loans, then taking kickbacks. Can you prove it? Javier asked sharply. Matteo grinned. Already sent the evidence to the Banking Commission and the FBI. Richard's going to have bigger problems than this store very soon. Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by exhaustion. I sank into a chair, looking at my parents. No more secrets. Promise me. No more secrets, they said together. Good. I stood up. Because the reopening event is in 2 weeks, and we need to make it big. River Valley wants a war. Let's give them one. What are you thinking? Sadie asked. We're going to throw the biggest grand reopening this town has ever seen. Every media outlet, every influential person in the community will be there. And when Richard and River Valley's schemes come to light, I smiled grimly. Well, let's just say their new store won't have many customers. It's risky, Dad cautioned. Riskier than taking a predatory loan and hiding it from your family. He winced. Point taken. Matteo, I turned to him. Get me everything you have on Richard and River Valley. Mom, Dad, I need a list of every business owner they've tried this with. Sadie, start calling media contacts. And me? Javier asked, eyes twinkling. You and I are going to redesign this store until it makes River Valley look like a corner shop. As everyone dispersed to their tasks, Mom caught my arm. We don't deserve you, mihija. You're right, I said, but softened it with a smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. That's what family means. Looking around at our makeshift war room, I felt a fierce pride. River Valley thought they were dealing with a weak family business. They were about to learn what happens when you mess with a family that's finally truly united. The morning of the grand reopening, I stood in front of the store, heart pounding. The old Carter family store sign had been replaced with sleek modern letters spelling out McGregor Carter Marketplace. The windows gleamed, displaying artfully arranged local products and digital screens showing our new farm-to-table partnerships. The press is starting to arrive, Matteo said, checking his tablet, and you'll never guess who just pulled up. I turned to see Richard stepping out of his car, looking considerably less smug than 2 weeks ago. The FBI investigation had made headlines yesterday. Mrs. McGregor, he said stiffly, approaching us. I believe we can come to some arrangement. Save it, I cut him off. The only arrangement you'll be making is with federal prosecutors. You don't understand, he lowered his voice. River Valley's executives are on their way. They're prepared to offer twice the market value for the store. Javier appeared beside me, like they did with the Thompsons' bakery, the Chen's grocery, all those other families you helped them squeeze out. Richard's face reddened. Those were legitimate business deals. Those were predatory loans designed to fail, came my father's voice. He walked up, standing tall in his new suit. And we have proof. More cars were pulling up, news vans, local business owners, community members. And yes, there they were. River Valley's executives, looking far less confident than usual. Places, everyone, Sadie called out. We're going live in 5 minutes. The crowd gathered around the store's entrance, where we'd set up a small stage. Camera crews jostled for position as Mom joined us, holding Sophia and Marco's hands. Ready, I whispered to my parents. Dad squeezed my shoulder. Ready to make things right. I stepped up to the microphone, scanning the crowd. Thank you all for coming. Today marks not just the reopening of a store, but the rebirth of a family legacy. The cameras flashed as I continued. For 3 generations, this store has served our community. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight of what matters most. We became so focused on tradition that we forgot about progress. So afraid of change that we pushed away the very people who could help us grow. I saw Richard trying to slip away, but 2 FBI agents were already moving to intercept him. My parents made a mistake 10 years ago when they rejected my husband, Javier, because he didn't fit their image of tradition. They made another mistake when they trusted the wrong people who promised to help save this store. The River Valley executives shifted uncomfortably as several reporters turned their cameras their way. But today isn't about mistakes. It's about second chances. About admitting when you're wrong and working to make it right. I turned to my parents. Mum? Dad? They stepped forward and my father took the microphone. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was clear. 10 years ago, I let pride and prejudice cost me my daughter. I couldn't see that change doesn't mean losing who you are. It means growing into something better. He turned to face Javier and me directly. I was wrong. About everything. And I'm sorry. Mom stepped up next, tears streaming openly. We're sorry. To our daughter, to our son-in-law, to our grandchildren who we denied for so long, and to our community who trusted us to serve them honestly. I saw several reporters wiping their eyes as Mom continued, detailing River Valley's predatory practices and the families they'd hurt. The executives were already retreating to their cars, trailed by shouting journalists. And so, I returned to the microphone, we're not just reopening a store, we're starting fresh, with new ideas, new partnerships, and most importantly, a renewed commitment to family, both blood and chosen. The ribbon-cutting ceremony that followed was a blur of cameras and congratulations. Local business owners came forward with their own stories of River Valley's tactics. The FBI made their move on Richard. But what I remember most was the moment Sophia tugged on my mother's sleeve and said, "Can I call you abuela now?" The tears that sprang to Mom's eyes had nothing to do with the cameras. Later, as the crowd filtered into the store to explore, Javier pulled me aside. Look, he nodded toward the checkout area where Dad was showing Marco how to work the new digital register system. Never thought I'd see the day, I murmured. Change isn't always bad, Mom said, joining us. Sometimes it's exactly what we need. She hesitated, then added, We're having Sunday dinner at our house this week. If you're all free. I looked at Javier, who smiled and nodded. We'll be there, I said. All of us. Outside, workers were already taking down River Valley's coming soon sign down the street. Inside, our family was finally, truly, coming together. Sometimes revenge doesn't look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like healing, like growth, like love finding its way home. Sunday dinner at my parents' house felt surreal. The formal dining room I remembered from childhood had been transformed, the heavy curtains drawn back, family photos added to the walls, including several of my wedding that had been hidden away for a decade. Sophia? Careful with the salad bowl, Mom called out as my daughter proudly carried it to the table. Marco, would you help Abuela with the plates? The word abuela still sounded strange coming from my mother's lips, but the smile it brought to Marco's face made it worth it. Something smells amazing, Sadie said, walking in with a bottle of wine. She stopped short at the sight of the table. Mom, are those enchiladas? Mom said, slightly defensive. I've been practicing all week, Brinley's recipe. With help, I added, sharing a smile with Javier. We'd spent 3 evenings teaching her, each session filled with more laughter than awkwardness. Dad emerged from his study, where he'd been reviewing the store's first-week numbers with Mateo. Sales are up 200% from our previous best week, he announced, and the online orders are overwhelming our system, Mateo finished. Good problem to have. We settled around the table, the conversation flowing easier than I'd expected. Sophia was telling Mom about her soccer tournament when the doorbell rang. Are we expecting someone else? I asked. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. Actually, yes. Dad said, getting up. We invited Angela. The room went silent. I felt Javier tense beside me. Before you say anything, Mom held up her hand. Just listen to her, please. Angela walked in, looking smaller somehow, clutching a familiar casserole dish. I brought the green bean casserole, she said quietly, like I used to. Sit. Dad gestured to an empty chair. Tell them what you told us. Angela set down the dish and took a shaky breath. I've known your parents since before you were born, Brinley. Watched you grow up. When they cut you out, I should have said something. Should have fought harder. That doesn't explain why you helped River Valley, I said coldly. No, it doesn't. She squared her shoulders. Tommy, my son, he got in trouble, gambling debts. River Valley offered to help if I helped them. I was weak, scared. But seeing your family come together these past weeks, watching you all fight for each other. She wiped her eyes. I've given the FBI everything. All the communications, the secret meetings, everything. That's why the charges against Richard were expanded, Mateo realized. Your testimony. Angela nodded. River Valley's executives are being indicted next week. Tommy's agreed to testify too, in exchange for immunity. Why tell us this now? Javier asked. Because I owe you the truth. All of you. She looked at my parents. Your friendship meant everything to me. I betrayed that. I know I can't fix it, but... She pulled out an envelope. This is my resignation from the store's board of directors and a cashier's check for my shares. Dad took the envelope but didn't open it. 20 years of friendship doesn't disappear overnight, Angela. Neither does betrayal. But if we can forgive ourselves for what we did to Brinley, we can try to forgive you too, Mom finished. I looked at my children, watching this adult drama unfold with wide eyes. What were we teaching them about forgiveness, about family? Stay for dinner, I heard myself say. Not because everything's okay, but because this is how we make it okay. Sophia jumped up. You can sit next to me. I'm learning Spanish from Abuelo, want to hear? The tension broke as Sophia launched into her newly learned phrases, making everyone laugh at her enthusiastic pronunciation. As we ate, I watched the strange family tableau before me. My parents teaching my children Spanish, Angela sharing stories about my rebellious teenage years, Sadie and Mateo arguing playfully about the store's next promotion, Javier's hand warm in mine under the table. I have an announcement, Dad said as we finished eating. Your mother and I have been talking. We're stepping back from day-to-day operations at the store. What? Sadie and I said together. We'll stay on as advisors, Mom added. But it's time for the next generation to take over. All of you, together. Besides, Dad smiled, we need more time for grandparent duties. Sophia's soccer games, Marco's art classes, and maybe, Mom looked at me hopefully, weekly family dinners instead of monthly. I squeezed Javier's hand, feeling the years of hurt and anger finally, truly beginning to heal. I think we can manage that. To family, Sadie raised her glass. Old and new, chosen, and blood. To second chances, Angela added softly. To love, Javier said, looking at me with the same warmth I'd fallen for all those years ago. To all of it, I said, raising my glass to meet theirs. To everything we lost and everything we found again. Ready for this? Javier asked, straightening my necklace as we stood in the store's back office. Almost. I checked my reflection one last time. The local business awards ceremony would be starting soon, and our entire family was gathered for the announcement. Mom! Sophia burst in, wearing her first real party dress. Abuela's crying again. Happy tears, Mom said, following her in. The stores never looked better. She gestured to the wall where our old family photos now hung alongside news clippings about River Valley's executives being sentenced, our store's revival and the community's support. The ceremony's starting, Mateo poked his head in. They want us all out there. We filed into the main store area, transformed for tonight's event. Local business owners, community leaders, and reporters filled the space. Dad stood at the podium, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. When I took over this store from my father, he began, I thought I knew everything about running a business, about family, about life. He paused, finding my eyes in the crowd. I was wrong. The audience chuckled. This past year taught me that success isn't about holding on to the past. It's about embracing change. My daughter and son-in-law showed me that. They took a failing store and transformed it into something extraordinary. Not by erasing our history, but by building on it. I felt Javier's arm tighten around my waist as Dad continued. Tonight, we're not just celebrating McGregor Carter Marketplace winning Business of the Year. We're celebrating all the small businesses that stood together against corporate predators. We're celebrating family in all its forms. Angela, sitting with her son Tommy in the back, wiped her eyes. Their testimony had helped bring down River Valley's entire operation, protecting countless other family businesses. And so, Dad's voice grew stronger. I'm proud to announce our next chapter. We're launching a foundation to help other family businesses modernize and thrive, to offer the same second chance we received. Gasps and applause filled the room. This was the secret we'd been planning for months. The first grant, Mum stepped up to the microphone, goes to Thompson's Bakery to help them rebuild after River Valley's predatory practices. Mrs. Thompson burst into tears as her daughter hugged her. They'd lost everything to River Valley's schemes, and this would give them a fresh start. The foundation will be run by our children, Dad gestured to us. Brinley, Javier, and Sadie, because they understand better than anyone how to blend tradition with progress. As applause filled the room, Sophia tugged on my dress. Mama, can I tell them now? I nodded, lifting her onto the stage. My fearless 8-year-old grabbed the microphone. Hi everyone, I'm Sophia, and I have a surprise for my abuela and abuelo. She beamed at my parents. I entered our store's story in my school's writing contest, about how my family came back together. And I won. More applause as Sophia pulled out her carefully folded pages. Can I read it? Of course, mi amor, Javier called out. Once upon a time, Sophia began, my mama's parents didn't want my papa in their family because he was different. But then their store got sick, like when I got strep throat, and they needed help. Mama and papa fixed the store, but more importantly, they fixed our family. I watched my parents' faces as Sophia read, saw the tears and smiles as she described our journey through a child's eyes. Marco joined her on stage halfway through, adding his own commentary about Sunday dinners and learning Spanish with abuelo. When she finished, Dad lifted her into a tight hug. That's going on our wall, he declared, pointing to the family photo display. Later, as the party wound down, I found myself behind the old register where I'd worked as a teenager. The modern touchscreen glowed beside vintage photos of the store's early days. Penny for your thoughts? Sadie joined me, bumping my shoulder. Remember when I wanted revenge? I laughed softly. I thought making them need us would be the perfect payback. And instead we all got something better. We got our family back. Mom appeared with coffee cups. Your father's showing Marco how to count the register. Again. Third time this week, I smiled. He's making up for lost time, Mum said quietly. We both are. Through the window, I could see the empty shell of what would have been River Valley's store. The community had voted to turn it into a small business incubator instead. You know what's funny? I said, watching Sophia teach Mateo her victory dance while Javier and Dad laughed. I thought I was teaching you and Dad about change, about acceptance, but really... We all learned together, Mum finished, squeezing my hand. And there it was, the real victory. Not in revenge or redemption, but in the simple joy of a family dinner to plan, a store to run, and a future to build. Together. The day I chose Alice was the day my mother stopped calling me her daughter. I didn't expect it to happen quite like that, in the middle of our family's marble-floored foyer, with the crystal chandelier casting judgmental shadows across her face. My name is Sierra, and until that moment, I'd been the perfect Blair daughter. Ivy League educated, successful in the family business, and, according to my mother, just one good marriage away from completing the picture-perfect life she'd planned for me. You can't be serious, my mother said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Adoption? Have you lost your mind? I stood my ground, though my hands were trembling. I've met her, Mom. Alice is incredible. She's brilliant, kind, and she's not blood, my father interrupted, emerging from his study. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud. The Blair name means something, Sierra. We don't just take in strays. The word strays hit me like a physical blow. I'd seen Alice's file 3 months ago, a 12-year-old girl who'd lost her parents in a car accident. The moment I met her, something clicked. She had this way of looking at the world that made everything seem possible. Dad, if you'd just meet her. This discussion is over, he said, turning back toward his study. Either come to your senses or what? I challenged, my voice stronger than I felt. You'll cut me off? Disinherit me? Go ahead. My mother gasped. My sister Natalie, who'd been hovering in the doorway, stepped forward. Sierra, please, think about what you're doing. I have thought about it. For months. Alice needs a family and We are your family! My mother's voice cracked. Everything we've built, everything we've worked for. You'd throw it all away for some what, Mom? Some orphan? I pulled out my phone and showed them Alice's picture. Look at her. Really look at her. But they wouldn't. My mother turned away and my father's study door slammed shut. Natalie reached for my arm. Give them time. Maybe if you wait. I can't wait. The adoption hearing is next week. I took a deep breath. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you I'm becoming a mother. Then you're no daughter of mine. My mother's words fell like ice. Get out. I'd prepared myself for resistance, but this felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed. Mom, out! I walked to the door, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Each step echoed with finality. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. You know what's funny? Alice asked me yesterday what her new grandparents would be like. She was so excited to meet you. My mother's face twitched, but she held her ground. Natalie looked between us, tears in her eyes. Nat, I said softly, you're welcome to meet your niece any time. The drive home was a blur. I pulled into my driveway and sat there, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed, a text from the adoption agency confirming tomorrow's pre-placement visit. I opened my gallery and found the video from last week. Alice sat cross-legged on the floor of the group home, explaining her science project to me. Her eyes lit up as she described how she'd built a small wind turbine from recycled materials. And see, Sierra, she'd said, pointing to the tiny blades spinning in front of a fan. It actually works. Do you think when I come home we could build a bigger one? When I come home. Not if. When. I wiped my eyes and typed a quick response to the agency. Looking forward to tomorrow's visit. Everything's ready. Because it was. The guest room had been transformed into a space for a 12-year-old girl who loved science and art. The walls were painted her favourite shade of blue, and a desk by the window waited for her projects. On the bookshelf, engineering books sat next to Harry Potter. My phone buzzed again. Natalie. They'll come around. They have to. But Sierra, are you sure about this? I thought about Alice's smile. About the way she'd hugged me goodbye last week, about how she'd whispered, "See you soon, Mom," when she thought I couldn't hear. More sure than I've ever been about anything, I texted back. Tomorrow I'd sign the papers that would make me Alice's mother. My parents might have written me out of their story, but Alice and I? We were about to write our own. And somehow, watching the last rays of sunlight fade from the sky, I knew that would be enough. More than enough. It would be everything. Mom, I think I solved it. Alice burst into my home office, waving a notebook filled with calculations. 3 years had passed since the adoption, and my 15-year-old daughter had grown into a force of nature. I pushed away from my laptop, grateful for the interruption from quarterly reports. Solved what, sweetie? The solar panel efficiency problem I've been working on. Look! She spread her notes across my desk, pointing excitedly at diagrams. If we adjust the angle and add this coating I developed. The doorbell interrupted her explanation. Through the window, I spotted Natalie's car in the driveway. Alice's face fell slightly. Is that Aunt Natalie again? Why don't you head upstairs and finish your homework? I'll handle this. She gathered her notes, hesitating at the door. Tell her I said hi. I guess. These surprise visits from Natalie had become more frequent lately. I opened the front door to find my sister clutching her designer purse like a shield. Mom's sick, she blurted out before I could speak. My heart skipped. How sick? Nothing serious, just the flu. But she's been asking about Alice. Natalie stepped inside, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She saw the article about Alice winning the state science fair. They have Google Alerts set up for us now. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Sierra, please. They're trying in their way. Natalie sank onto the couch. Dad's business is struggling. The market's changing and he's... Well, you know how he is about change. I did know. The man who refused to modernize his email system was probably having a hell of a time adapting to current market demands. What do they want, Nat? Because if they're expecting me to come crawling back... No, nothing like that. Just... maybe bring Alice to Sunday dinner? Let them meet her properly? I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. After 3 years of pretending she doesn't exist, after missing every birthday, every achievement, people can change, Natalie insisted. Quinton's been talking to Dad, trying to... Mum, is everything okay? Alice stood at the top of the stairs, concern etched on her face. Natalie turned, and I saw her eyes widen. The gangly 12-year-old in the adoption photos had grown into a poised teenager with bright eyes and her father's old lab coat that I'd gotten her for Christmas. Alice, Wow, you've grown so much. That tends to happen in 3 years, Alice replied coolly, descending the stairs. I heard you mention Sunday dinner. Don't worry about us, we have plans. We do, I asked. Yeah, remember, Lane's coming over to help me with the prototype. And you promised to make your famous lasagna. I hadn't promised any such thing, but I played along. Right, of course. Natalie's face fell. Another time, maybe. Alice reached the bottom of the stairs and stood beside me. You know what's funny? I used to dream about having grandparents who'd be proud of me. Now, I'm kind of glad they stayed away. Because Mom, she squeezed my hand. She's been enough. More than enough. Natalie's eyes filled with tears. Alice, they made mistakes, but... Mistakes, Alice's voice sharpened. Is that what we're calling it? They threw their daughter out for choosing to love someone who needed love. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. Alice, I whispered, squeezing her hand back. No, Mom, they need to hear this. She turned back to Natalie. Tell them I'm not interested in their guilt or their late attempts at connection. Tell them I'm too busy revolutionizing solar energy efficiency and making my mom proud. Natalie stood, clutching her purse tighter. I'll tell them you're both doing well. After she left, I pulled Alice into a hug. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. She pulled back, her eyes fierce. Nobody gets to hurt you anymore, not even them. Especially not them. When did you get so protective? Learned from the best. She grinned suddenly. But you do actually have to make lasagna now. Lane really is coming over to help with the prototype. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Deal. But first, show me these calculations you were excited about. As Alice launched into her explanation, my phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. Dad's company lost another major contract. He's desperate but won't admit it. Please think about Sunday dinner. I turned my phone face down and focused on my daughter's animated description of solar panel coefficients. Let them worry about their precious family business. Alice and I had built something far more valuable, a family based on choice, not obligation. But as I watched her sketch diagrams in the air, a small part of me wondered if karma wasn't already setting its wheels in motion. After all, the brilliant young scientist they'd rejected might just hold the key to saving everything they held dear. They're filing for bankruptcy protection, Quinton said over coffee. My brother-in-law had suggested meeting at a quiet cafe across town, away from prying eyes. Your father's too proud to admit it publicly, but the company's bleeding money. I stirred my latte, watching the foam swirl. How bad? Bad enough that they're selling the summer house. the one in Martha's Vineyard. That hit hard. I'd spent every summer there until the estrangement. Dad would rather sell his kidney than that house. Times change, Quentin leaned forward. Look, I know you don't owe them anything, but you understand modern business better than anyone in the family. If you could just… Mom, Alice's voice cut through the cafe's quiet buzz. She stood at our table, still in her lab coat from her university internship, Lane hovering uncertainly behind her. Uncle Quentin. Alice, Quentin stood, smiling warmly. I haven't seen you since… Since never, she finished coldly. Because you never visited either. Lane stepped forward, placing a protective hand on Alice's shoulder. We can come back later. No, stay. I gestured to the empty chairs. Quentin was just leaving. Actually, Alice said, sliding into a seat, maybe he should hear this. She pulled out her tablet. Lane and I just came from the lab. We've perfected the solar coating. My heart skipped. She'd been working on this project for months, refusing to show anyone but Lane and me until it was ready. The what? Quentin asked. A nanotech coating that increases solar panel efficiency by 40%, Lane explained, his eyes bright with excitement. It's revolutionary. Alice pulled up graphs and charts. We've run all the tests. It works. And the manufacturing cost is minimal compared to the energy output increase. I watched Quentin's face as understanding dawned. This could save millions in energy costs for large-scale operations. Like, say, a manufacturing company struggling to keep up with rising energy costs. Alice's smile was sharp. One that still uses outdated power systems in all its facilities. Quentin stared at her. You know about the company's problems. I know everything. Alice swiped through more documents. I've been monitoring the situation. Did you really think Mum wouldn't keep tabs on her father's life's work? I reached for her hand under the table, squeezing gently. Alice. We're presenting this at the Clean Energy Summit next month, she continued. Every major company in the industry will be there, including your biggest competitors. Quentin's coffee sat forgotten. Alice, if you're suggesting what I think, I'm not suggesting anything. She stood, gathering her things. I'm just letting you know that solutions exist. Whether pride allows certain people to see them, well, that's not my problem. Lane helped her with her coat, trying to hide a smile. We should head back to the lab, Alice. The final testing sequence. Right, she kissed my cheek. Don't work too late, Mom. Movie night, remember? After they left, Quentin let out a long breath. She's brilliant. Yes, she is. And she did this for you. To prove them wrong. I shook my head. No, she did this because she's passionate about sustainable energy. The fact that it might help the family business, that's just karma. They should know about this. Then tell them. I stood, gathering my purse. Tell them their granddaughter, the one they rejected, might hold the key to saving everything. Tell them she did it without their name, their money, or their approval. Sierra. Movie night with my daughter, remember? I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Quentin, the summer house? Tell them not to sell it yet. Something tells me they might need liquid assets for technology upgrades soon. That evening, curled up on the couch with Alice watching her favorite sci-fi movie, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind. How long have you been working on this specifically for the company? She paused the movie, turning to face me. Since Aunt Natalie's visit 3 months ago, Lane helped me research their energy consumption patterns. Did you know they spend 4 times the industry average on power? Your grandfather isn't big on efficiency. Well, he's going to have to be. Her expression softened. I didn't do it for them, Mom. I did it because it's good technology that could help a lot of companies. But if they want it, they'll have to come to you. Exactly. She grinned suddenly. Want to be my +1 at the summit presentation? Wouldn't miss it for the world. I pulled her close, remembering the 12-year-old who built tiny wind turbines. You know I'm proud of you, right? Not because of this, but because of who you are. I know, Mom. She unpaused the movie. Now shush. This is the best part. But as the sci-fi drama unfolded on screen, I couldn't help thinking about another drama about to unfold. One where pride would face off against necessity, and where karma might finally come full circle. The family estate looked exactly the same, right down to the pretentious lion door knockers. I hadn't planned to return here, but Natalie's frantic call had left little choice. "Family emergency meeting," she'd said. "Dad's making some kind of announcement." Alice squeezed my hand as we stood at the door. "Ready? Are you?" "Born ready." She smoothed her blazer, professional, polished, nothing like the rejected orphan they probably imagined. Besides, Lane's on standby if we need a quick escape. The door opened before we could knock. Natalie stood there, eyes wide. "You came. Both of you." "Let's not make it a bigger deal than it is," I said, stepping inside. The foyer still smelled of Mum's favourite potpourri. Family portraits lined the walls, a timeline of our lives, stopping abruptly 3 years ago. Alice studied them with clinical interest. "Interesting gap in the family history," she murmured. Voices drifted from the living room. I recognised Dad's agitated tone, Mom's attempts to soothe him, and other voices. Board members, probably. "Sierra." Mom stood in the doorway, looking older than I remembered. Her eyes fixed on Alice. "And Alice." "Mrs. Blair," Alice replied coolly. "Lovely home. The chandelier's gorgeous. Austrian crystal, right? Though the energy consumption must be astronomical." Mom flinched. "Please come in. Your father's about to start." The living room fell silent as we entered. Dad stood by the fireplace, his usual power position, but something was off. His shoulders sagged, his hair greyer than ever. "Sierra." He nodded stiffly. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Natalie said it was important." "It is." He cleared his throat, addressing the room. "As you know, we've faced some challenges lately. Market changes, rising costs." "Just say it, Kingsley," one board member interrupted. "We're sinking." "We're not sinking," Dad snapped. "We're adapting, which is why I've called this meeting. I'm announcing my retirement." Gasps filled the room. Mum grabbed the nearest chair for support. "The board will begin searching for a new CEO immediately," Dad continued. "Someone who understands modern markets, someone who can—" "Actually," Alice's voice cut through the shock like a laser, "I have a better idea." All eyes turned to her. She stood, pulling out her tablet with the same confidence she showed in the lab. "Alice," I warned softly. "Trust me, Mom." She connected her tablet to the room's projector. "Mr. Blair, grandfather if you prefer, though you haven't earned that title, your company's main problem isn't leadership. It's inefficiency." Graphs appeared on the screen. Energy consumption rates, cost analyses, projection models. "Your facilities use outdated systems that bleed money, but there's a solution." She pulled up her research. "A proprietary nanotech coating that could cut your energy costs by 40%. The board members leaned forward. Dad's face reddened. "Who do you think you are?" he began. "I'm the person who developed this technology," Alice cut in. "The same person you rejected because I wasn't blood. Ironic, isn't it?" "This is preposterous," Dad sputtered. "You're just a brilliant scientist," a board member finished. "I read about your work in Tech Monthly. That coating, it's revolutionary." Alice smiled. "Thank you. We're presenting at the Clean Energy Summit next month. Every major company will be there, including your competitors." The room erupted in urgent whispers. Dad gripped the mantle, knuckles white. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Want?" Alice looked genuinely surprised. "I don't want anything. I'm simply presenting options. You can either swallow your pride and work with me, or watch your life's work crumble because you couldn't see past your own prejudices." Mom stepped forward. "Alice, please, we made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I stood beside my daughter. "You threw us away, and now you want her help?" "The company's not just about us," Natalie interjected. "Hundreds of employees depend on it." Alice's expression softened slightly. "I know. That's why I'm here. But understand this. If we do this, we do it my way. No compromises, no conditions." Dad opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded once. "Good." Alice gathered her things. Have your lawyers contact Mum's office to set up a meeting. We'll discuss terms then. As we turned to leave, she paused at the door. Oh, and grandmother, that chandelier, switch to LED bulbs. Small changes make big differences. In the car, I finally found my voice. That was satisfying? She grinned. Just wait until they read my terms. Lane helped me draft them. They're going to love the environmental compliance clauses. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Mum, they hurt you. Hurt us. But instead of revenge, I'm offering salvation. She pulled out her phone to text Lane. Sometimes, the best revenge is forcing people to face their own failures, and then helping them fix them. I started the car, glancing one last time at the house. Through the window, I could see them all still standing there, shocked into silence by the hurricane that was my daughter. Ready to go home? I asked. Actually, she smiled. I think we just started something much bigger than going home. The conference room felt like a pressure cooker. On one side sat my father, mother, and 3 board members. On our side, Alice, Lane, our lawyer, and me. The contract lay between us like a loaded weapon. This is absurd, Dad exploded, throwing down his reading glasses. 51% control of environmental initiatives, mandatory board positions for both of you, complete restructuring of our energy systems within 18 months. Those are my terms, Alice replied calmly. The technology alone will save you millions annually. The restructuring will position you as an industry leader in sustainable manufacturing. We've operated the same way for 40 years, and that's exactly why you're failing. Alice pulled up projections on the wall screen. Your energy costs are crippling you. Your competitors are going green while you're burning money on outdated systems. Lane stepped in, his voice steady. We've run the numbers extensively. Even with implementation costs, you'll see return on investment within 2 years. Return on investment? Mom's voice quavered. This isn't just about money. This is our family legacy. Family? I couldn't help but laugh. Now you care about family? Sierra, our lawyer warned softly. No, let's talk about family, Alice said, standing. 3 years ago, you threw away your daughter because she chose to love someone who needed love. Now you're facing bankruptcy and suddenly family matters. The room fell silent. Even Dad couldn't meet her eyes. Here's what's going to happen, Alice continued. You'll sign this contract. I'll save your company. But understand this. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for the hundreds of employees who depend on their paychecks, for the environment. And yes, for my mother, who still checks your company's stock prices every morning because despite everything, she cares about her father's life's work. I felt tears prick my eyes. Dad looked at me sharply. You still follow the company? Every day, I admitted. Just because you stopped being my father doesn't mean I stopped being your daughter. Mum made a small, broken sound. The coating technology is just the beginning, Alice pressed on. I have plans for complete modernization, solar integration, waste reduction systems, but it happens on my terms. Or what? One board member asked. Or I take it to your competitors. They're already interested. She smiled. Very interested. Dad stood abruptly, pacing to the window. You're blackmailing us. No, I'm offering you salvation. The choice to take it is yours. Lane pulled out another document. We've also drafted a press release announcing the partnership. The market would respond very favorably to a family reconciliation story combined with green innovation. You've thought of everything, Dad said quietly. I learned from you, actually. Alice's voice softened slightly. You always said business is about leverage. Well, here we are. The board members huddled together, whispering urgently. Mom kept looking between Dad and me, her perfectly manicured hands twisting in her lap. Finally, Dad turned from the window. If, and I mean if, we agree to this, what guarantees do we have that you won't just take control and destroy everything? Because unlike you, Alice replied, I understand that family isn't about blood, it's about choice, and I'm choosing to help, despite everything. The question is, are you choosing to let me? The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Then Dad did something I'd never seen before. He sat down heavily, looking suddenly old. "Where do I sign?" "Dad!" Natalie burst out from the doorway where she'd been listening. "You can't be serious." "We don't have a choice," he said quietly. "And maybe it's time we admitted that." Alice pushed the contract forward. As Dad reached for a pen, she added, "One more thing. Mom gets her old office back, the corner one with the view." I stared at her. I hadn't asked for that. "And Sunday dinners," she continued. "Not every week, but sometimes, if Mom wants, because this only works if we actually try to be a family." Mom started crying openly now. Dad's hand shook as he signed. "Welcome to the future of Blair Industries," Alice said, but her voice was gentle now. "Let's build something better, together." As we gathered our things to leave, Mom caught my arm. "Sierra, would you like to have lunch sometime? Just us?" I looked at Alice, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Okay," I said. "But not at the club. There's this little cafe near my office." "Anywhere," Mom whispered. "Anywhere you want." Outside, Lane hugged Alice tightly. "You were amazing in there." "Thanks for having my back." She turned to me. "Mom, you okay?" I pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with lab chemicals. "You didn't have to add that part about Sunday dinners." "Yes, I did." She pulled back, eyes bright. "Because sometimes fixing things means more than just business plans and contracts. Sometimes it means giving people a chance to be better than they were." Looking back at the building, I wondered if she was right. If maybe, just maybe, karma wasn't about punishment after all. Maybe it was about giving people the opportunity to face their mistakes and choose a different path. "They're sabotaging us," Lane burst into my office, waving his tablet. "The old guard in production is deliberately slowing down implementation." I looked up from my computer, where I'd been reviewing the first phase of Alice's modernization plan. "What do you mean?" "They're losing equipment orders, scheduling installation crews for the wrong dates, claiming system incompatibilities that don't exist." He pulled up a spreadsheet. "We're 3 weeks behind schedule." "Dad's people," I muttered. "Of course they're resistant." My office door opened again, and Alice stormed in, her lab coat fluttering. "Did you see the memo? They're trying to modify my coating formula without consulting me." "What?" I grabbed my phone to call Dad, but it already showed 3 missed calls from Natalie. "Sierra," she said when I called back. "It's bad. Dad's old VP of operations is rallying people against the changes. They're saying Alice is too young, too inexperienced. Too much of an outsider," I finished bitterly. "You need to come to the main facility. Now." The factory floor was chaos when we arrived. Workers clustered in groups, arguing loudly. The installation team sat idle beside crates of new solar panels, while Dad's VP, Richard, held court near the control room. "These changes will cost jobs," he was saying. "This girl thinks she can waltz in and—" "This girl is saving your jobs," Lane shouted, pushing forward. Alice grabbed my arm. "Mom, look at the control panel." I followed her gaze. The main power systems were running at dangerous levels, well above normal parameters. "They're overloading the old system to prove it's more reliable," she whispered. "But they've miscalculated. If those readings are accurate—" A loud pop echoed through the facility, followed by cascading sparks from the main electrical panel. Emergency lights flashed as the backup system engaged. "Everyone out!" I shouted. "Emergency shutdown!" Workers scattered as smoke began pouring from the control room. Alice sprinted toward it, Lane close behind. "Alice, no!" I tried to grab her, but she was already punching numbers into the backup terminal. "The main system's going to blow if we don't redirect power now." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "Lane, cut power to sectors 3 through 7. "On it!" I grabbed a fire extinguisher as more sparks flew. Through the chaos, I saw Dad and Mom rushing in, faces pale. "What happened?" Dad demanded. "Your people happened," I shot back. "They overloaded the system trying to prove Alice wrong." Another explosion rocked the facility. Alice's voice cut through the noise. "Got it! Lane, now!" The emergency lights flickered, then stabilized. The smoking control panel went dark as backup systems fully engaged. In the sudden quiet, Alice's voice carried clearly. That's what happens when you let pride override science. She turned to face the gathered workers. The old system just failed catastrophically. If we hadn't installed the backup system last week, against significant resistance, I might add, this whole facility would be dark right now. Richard stepped forward. Now see here. No, you see. Alice cut him off. I just saved this facility from a complete meltdown. Your little demonstration of reliability nearly caused millions in damage. Still want to question my competence? Dad pushed through the crowd. Richard, in my office. Now, he turned to Alice. How long until we can restore power? The new system can be online in an hour. The old one? She gestured at the smoking panel. That's dead. Permanently. Guess you'll have to use my inexperienced solution after all. Workers began drifting back to their stations, many nodding respectfully to Alice. Lane started directing the installation team to begin work on the remaining sectors. Mum touched my arm. She really does know what she's doing, doesn't she? She always has. I watched Alice confidently giving instructions to the maintenance crew. Maybe now they'll actually listen to her. Sierra, Dad called from across the floor, I need your help with the incident report. And Alice's, of course. It wasn't quite an apology, but his face showed something I'd rarely seen before. Respect. Alice joined us, still slightly smoky from the control room. Well, congratulations. You just got your modernization ahead of schedule. Sometimes the universe has a way of forcing change. The universe or a certain teenage genius? I smiled. Speaking of which, she checked her phone. The press will be here in 20 minutes. Something about a heroic young innovator saves family company. Lane's already handling it. Dad's eyes widened. The press? Welcome to modern business management, Alice said sweetly. Now, should we discuss expediting the remaining upgrades? Unless you'd prefer more electrical fires. As we walked toward Dad's office, I caught Alice's small smile. She'd known all along that something like this might happen, and she'd been prepared, turning their resistance into a public relations triumph. My daughter hadn't just inherited my determination, she'd improved upon it. And watching Dad's face as she outlined her accelerated implementation plan, I knew the last pieces of resistance were finally crumbling. Stock's up 70% since the modernization, Lane announced, bursting into the conference room where we were preparing for the company's centennial celebration. The press is calling us the Green Manufacturing Revolution. Alice barely looked up from her tablet. Did they mention the employee wellness programs too? Front page of the Business Journal, he confirmed, dropping a newspaper on the table. Along with a very flattering photo of you and Sierra at the factory reopening. 6 months had transformed the company. The old manufacturing floor now gleamed with solar panels and state-of-the-art equipment. Employee satisfaction was at an all-time high, and our carbon footprint had dropped dramatically. Your father wants to see you both, Mom said, entering with an armful of decorations. In his office, he says it's important. Alice and I exchanged glances. Despite the success, these meetings still carried the weight of years of tension. Dad stood at his office window holding something in his hands. Close the door, please. If this is about the new environmental compliance standards, Alice started, the data clearly shows... It's not about that. He turned, and I was surprised to see his eyes were wet. This is about family. He placed a wooden box on his desk. I recognized it immediately, the family heirloom box passed down through generations of Blairs. Dad, I was wrong, he said simply. About everything. About what makes a family strong. About what makes a business successful. About you, Sierra. And especially about you, Alice. Alice stepped forward cautiously. Mr. Blair, grandfather, he corrected softly. Please, if you'll allow it. He opened the box, revealing the antique compass that had guided our family's first business venture a century ago. This was supposed to go to my firstborn son, he continued, then to my firstborn daughter. But I let pride and tradition blind me to what was right in front of me, the most brilliant mind this family has ever produced. He lifted the compass and held it out to Alice. This belongs to you now. You've shown us all true north when we were lost. Alice's hands trembled as she took it. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay, Mom blurted out. Both of you. Not just for business, but for Sunday dinners and holidays and everything we missed. There's more, Dad added, pulling out papers. I'm restructuring the company leadership. Sierra, you'll be CEO. Alice, Chief Innovation Officer with a seat on the board. If you want it. I felt tears threatening. Dad, let me finish. He took a deep breath. And I want to announce it at tonight's celebration. In front of everyone. Let them all see that this company's future isn't about blood. It's about vision. Your vision, Alice. Alice studied the compass, then looked up with that determined expression I knew so well. On one condition. Name it. The summer house? The one you almost sold? Turn it into a science camp for foster kids. Give other children the chances I got. Mom gasped softly. Dad's face worked with emotion. Already done, he said. The paperwork was filed last week. We're calling it the Alice Wilson Science Academy for Young Innovators. Alice launched herself into his arms, surprising everyone, especially Dad. After a moment's shock, he hugged her back fiercely. I'm so sorry, he whispered. So very sorry. Group hug, Lane called from the doorway, where he'd been not so subtly eavesdropping. Mom laughed through her tears and joined us. Later, as workers set up for the celebration, Alice and I stood on the factory floor, watching the sunset stream through the solar panels she'd designed. You planned this all along, didn't you? I asked. From the moment you saw the company was in trouble? She smiled, turning the compass over in her hands. Not all of it. The science camp was a surprise, but the rest? Let's just say I learned from the best about playing the long game. From me. From all of you. Grandfather's strategic thinking, grandmother's attention to detail, your determination. She paused. But mostly from you, Mom. You taught me that sometimes the greatest revenge is showing people a better way, and then helping them take it. The celebration hall was filling up. Through the windows we could see Dad practicing his speech, Mom fussing with his tie. Ready to be officially announced as the future of the family business? I asked. Alice tucked the compass into her pocket and straightened her blazer. Actually, I think we already are the present. The future is what we make next. And what's that? She grinned, that brilliant, unstoppable grin that had first captured my heart in a group home years ago. Well, Lane and I have been working on this new renewable energy concept as we walk toward our family, our whole, healing, imperfect family. I realized Alice was right. The best revenge wasn't about destroying the old, but about building something new and better from its foundations, and we were just getting started. And now, Dad announced to the packed auditorium at the Alice Wilson Science Academy, I'd like to introduce our first graduating class of young innovators. I watched from the side stage as 20 teenagers, all from foster homes, stood to thunderous applause. Each wore a lab coat with their name embroidered alongside the Academy logo, a compass pointing true north. Alice squeezed my hand. They did it, Mom. Every single one got full scholarships. Of course they did, Lane said, adjusting his camera. They had you as a mentor. The summer house had transformed beautifully into a state-of-the-art campus. Solar panels glinted on every roof, and the old tennis courts were now testing grounds for renewable energy projects. Dad continued his speech, his voice strong despite recent health challenges. When my granddaughter first proposed this academy, I didn't understand. Now watching these brilliant young minds flourish, I realized she saw something I couldn't, that potential knows no bloodlines. Mom dabbed at her eyes in the front row, sitting next to Natalie and Quinton. The family weekly dinners had become a tradition again, but different now. Filled with lively debates about innovation and sustainability rather than rigid formality. And speaking of potential, Dad said, I'd like to share some news. Our company's green manufacturing initiative, led by Alice, has just been awarded the Global Innovation Prize. But more importantly, he paused, looking directly at Alice. The patent royalties from her technologies will fund similar academies across the country. This was news to me. I turned to Alice, who was trying not to smile. Surprise, she whispered. Karma works better when it keeps giving. The ceremony concluded with each student presenting their final projects. I watched Alice move among them, offering encouragement and adjustments, every bit the mentor she never had. "Ms. Wilson," one student, Maria, approached nervously, "I wanted to thank you, not just for the scholarship, but for showing us that family isn't about where you come from. It's about where you choose to go," Alice finished, hugging her, "and who you choose to become." Later, as the celebration wound down, we gathered in what used to be the summer house's formal dining room, now a cozy common area. Dad sat in his favourite armchair, the old family photos on the walls now mixed with pictures of academy students and their achievements. "I've been thinking," he said, watching Alice help students pack up their projects, "about what really makes a legacy." "And," I prompted, "I spent years worried about preserving the family name, but look at what she's built. Not just a successful business, but a way to lift others up. That's a true legacy." Mom joined us, carrying coffee. "Remember when you said we don't take in strays?" Dad winced. "I was an old fool." "Was?" Alice teased, joining us. "The board meeting last week suggests present tense." "Hey now," he chuckled. "I only argued against the flying solar drones because they seemed excessive. They're not flying solar drones, they're autonomous atmospheric monitoring platforms," Lane corrected, earning laughs from everyone. Natalie raised her coffee cup. "To the next generation of innovators and the woman who showed us all a better way." "No," Alice said firmly. "To family, the one we're born with and the one we choose to build." As the evening light filtered through the solar windows Alice had designed, I watched my daughter surrounded by her students, my parents beaming with genuine pride, and Lane documenting everything for the Academy's newsletter. The wounds of rejection had healed into something stronger, something that could lift others out of similar pain. "Mom," Alice called, "Maria wants to show you her improved version of my solar coating. She's increased efficiency another 12%. "Impossible," Dad said, but his eyes twinkled. "Though I seem to recall saying that about your first design too." I joined them at the demonstration table where Maria's prototype glowed with possibility. Around us, other students gathered, eager to share their innovations, their dreams, their potential. This was Alice's real revenge, not destroying the old guard, but building a new generation that would make the old ways obsolete through sheer brilliance. She had taken rejection and turned it into a revolution of opportunity. "Ready to head home?" Lane asked as the last students left. Alice looked around the room, at the compass logo on the wall, at her grandfather dozing in his chair, at her grandmother arranging tomorrow's schedule, at me. "I am home," she said simply. "We all are." And in that moment, watching the sunset paint the Academy in shades of gold, I realized that karma hadn't just come full circle. It had spiraled upward, lifting us all to something higher than we'd ever imagined. The lost little girl I'd chosen to love had become the woman who taught us all how to love better. And that was the greatest revenge of all.
I stared at the custom-made Welcome Baby banner, wondering if the rose gold lettering was a mistake. June had always preferred simple designs, but Mother insisted on elevating everything these days. The party planner's invoice in my hand reminded me why I should have said no to organizing this baby shower in the first place. I'm Cora, and I've spent the last 15 years trying to prove that career success and family devotion aren't mutually exclusive. Spoiler alert, my mother still doesn't buy it. The caterer called, Kaya said, appearing beside me with her clipboard. "They're running 20 minutes late." Of course they are. I checked my watch. Another work email needed attention, but it could wait. "Did you confirm the flower arrangements?" "All set, but your mom called again. She wants to know if we can rearrange the seating chart to put June's college friends closer to the front." I closed my eyes, counting to 10. The chart we finalized 3 days ago. The one she approved? The very same. Kaya squeezed my shoulder. "Want me to tell her no? I'll handle it." I pulled out my phone, dialing Mother's number. 1 ring, 2 rings. "Cora, darling, Mother's voice dripped honey, never a good sign. I was just thinking about the seating. Mother, we can't change it now. The place cards are printed and the tables are set. But June specifically requested. June approved the arrangement last week. I watched the venue staff arrange crystal centerpieces that cost more than my first car. Remember, during the family dinner. Oh, you mean the dinner you left early for that conference call? There it was. The signature Aurora Norris guilt trip, right on schedule. That call secured the Thompson account, I said, keeping my voice level. It's helping pay for this shower you're trying to micromanage. Always about work with you, isn't it? She sighed dramatically. Your sister is having a baby, Cora. A baby. Would it kill you to focus on family for once? The venue manager waved frantically from across the room. Another fire to extinguish. Mother, I need to go. The seating stays as is. I hung up before she could protest. Problems? Kaya asked, already knowing the answer. Just the usual, mother being mother. I straightened my blazer. What's wrong now? The dessert table's lighting isn't ethereal enough, apparently. Kaya rolled her eyes. The manager's having a meltdown. As we walked over, my phone buzzed. June's text lit up the screen. Mom says you're being difficult about the seating. Why can't you just help make my day perfect? Perfect, like the straight A's that were never good enough. Like the promotion that meant nothing because I missed Sunday dinner. Like this $40,000 baby shower that still somehow fell short. The lights are fine, I told the manager firmly. If anything, we'll adjust the camera settings for photos. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Herbert, the family lawyer. Cora, your mother's on my other line about the venue contract. Something about last-minute changes. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Tell her any changes now will incur extra charges. Significant ones. She says money isn't an issue. Of course not. It's not her money. I watched another delivery arrive. Hand-painted party favors from June's favorite artist. Just hold her off, please. We're hours away from the event. Will do. And Cora. Herbert paused. You're doing a wonderful job. Don't let anyone tell you differently. I ended the call, feeling a familiar ache in my chest. The same ache I felt at 12, when Mother praised June's mediocre piano recital, but missed my debate championship. The same twist when she gushed about June's art major while dismissing my business degree as cold and calculating. Hey, Kaya's voice pulled me back. You okay? Fine. I straightened the nearest place card. Just wondering why I keep trying to prove myself to people who've already made up their minds about me. Because you're Cora, she said simply. You never give up, even when you should. The caterers finally arrived, creating a welcome distraction. As I directed them to the kitchen, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from Aunt Maeve. Your mother's on the warpath. Brace yourself, dear. And remember, you're worth more than their approval. I looked around the perfectly decorated venue, at the 1,000 little details I'd orchestrated while juggling client meetings and project deadlines. In 4 hours, this room would fill with guests, and my sister would have her perfect baby shower, and I would smile and nod and pretend their words didn't cut like always, because that's what good daughters do, right? The baby shower was in full swing when my phone vibrated for the 10th time. A client crisis needed immediate attention. I slipped behind a decorative screen, trying to keep my voice down. Yes, I understand the urgency, I whispered. I can review the contract in 20 minutes. Cora, Mother's voice, cut through the party chatter. What are you doing back there? I ended the call quickly. Just checking on the gift arrangements, Mother. Always with that phone. She grabbed my arm, steering me toward the crowd. Your sister is about to open presents. Surely your precious work can wait. June sat in the ornate chair I'd specially ordered, surrounded by cooing guests. Her pregnancy glow was amplified by the professional lighting I'd arranged. Not that anyone would mention that detail. There you are. June's smile didn't reach her eyes. I was starting to think you'd disappeared. Just managing some details. I took my designated seat beside her. noting how Mother hovered nearby like a watchful hawk. Details, details. Mother sighed loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. That's all Cora thinks about these days. Numbers and contracts instead of family. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. I felt my cheeks burn, but maintained my smile. Let's focus on the presents, shall we? June opened gift after gift. Each one met with appropriate oohs and ahs. I checked my phone discreetly. 3 missed calls from the client. Oh, this one's from Cora, June announced, lifting an elegantly wrapped package. My stomach knotted. I'd spent weeks hunting down the vintage silver rattle, identical to the one in our grandmother's baby photos. June tore through the paper, revealing the velvet box. Oh, it's nice. It's just like Grandma Margaret's, I explained quickly. Remember how she always told us about? Speaking of remembering, Mother interrupted. Remember when Cora missed June's college graduation because of a crucial meeting? The room went silent. June's husband Franklin shifted in his seat, looking anywhere but at me. Mother, that was years ago, I said quietly, and I flew in the next day. And now here we are, Mother continued, as if I hadn't spoken, at June's baby shower, and she can't even put her phone down for an hour. Aurora, Aunt Maeve warned from across the room. But Mother was on a roll. Do you know who arranged this entire shower? June joined in, her voice thick with hormonal tears. Our mother did, while you were too busy with your important career to help. I stared at her, stunned. June, I literally planned every— Oh sure, she sniffled. You wrote some checks, threw money at it like you do with everything. But where were you for the actual planning? The late-night calls about color schemes? The menu tastings? I was on those calls. My voice rose despite my efforts. I scheduled them around your timeline. Ladies, Franklin tried to intervene, but Mother shot him a look that could freeze hell. Your sister's having a baby, Mother announced to the room at large. A miracle, a new life. But I suppose that's not as important as whatever's on that phone of yours. My phone buzzed again. The client was now threatening to pull their account. I need to take this, I said, standing up. It's important. More important than family. June's voice cracked. More important than me. The room was dead silent now, every guest witnessing my public execution. You know what? I grabbed my purse. Yes, right now, this call is more important. Because unlike this shower, which I planned, paid for, and am apparently getting 0 credit for, this call actually matters to people who value my time and effort. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mother's face turned purple. How dare you, she sputtered. After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me, I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Please enlighten me. Was it the constant criticism, the comparison to June, the guilt trips? Cora, Kaya peered at my elbow. Maybe we should step outside. No need. I straightened my spine, channeling every ounce of boardroom confidence I possessed. I'm leaving. Enjoy the shower, June. The venue's paid through 7. Try not to let Mother convince you I ruined this too. I turned on my heel, walking steadily toward the exit, despite the trembling in my legs. Behind me, I heard Mother's theatrical sobs and June's hiccuping tears. Just before the door closed, I heard Aunt Maeve's clear voice. Well, Aurora, I hope you're satisfied. You've finally done it. I made it to my car before the tears came. But as I sat there, watching the venue staff scurry around through the windows, a strange calm settled over me. My phone buzzed again, but this time, instead of anxiety, I felt something else stirring in my chest. Resolve. I sat in my car for exactly 3 minutes before making the call. My hands had stopped shaking, replaced by an eerie steadiness I usually reserved for hostile takeovers. Herbert, it's Cora. Remember that contingency plan we discussed? The one you said you'd never use? He sounded concerned. What happened in there? They finally pushed too far. I watched another delivery van arrive at the venue. I need you to execute Plan B, all of it. Cora. He hesitated. Are you sure? This will— They think I just write checks, Herbert. Let's show them exactly what that means. After hanging up, I called the venue manager. Sarah, yes, about those payment arrangements we discussed. Of course, Ms. Norris. Everything's set up as requested. Should I? Yes. Implement all changes effective immediately. My phone lit up with a text from Kaya. Holy shit, they're still going at it. June's crying about how you abandoned her special day. Your mom's holding court like a martyred queen. I smiled, typing back, give it 20 minutes. The next call was to the catering company, followed by the bartender, the photographer, and the entertainment service. Each conversation was brief, professional, and devastating in its simplicity. Everything's in place, Herbert texted. You're really doing this? They wanted to talk about money, I replied. So let's talk about money. I started my car, catching a glimpse of Aunt Maeve hurrying out of the venue. She spotted me and rushed over. I rolled down my window. Cora, whatever you're planning, she started. How bad is it in there? She leaned against my car, sighing. Your mother's turned it into a full Greek tragedy. June's convinced you've ruined her life. Franklin looks like he wants to disappear. Perfect. I checked my watch. In about 10 minutes, they'll have something real to cry about. What did you do? Nothing they haven't asked for. I showed her my phone, scrolling through the emails. See, Mother always said I was good with numbers. Time to prove her right. Aunt Maeve's eyes widened as she read. Oh my God, Cora, this is perfectly legal. Everything's in my name. All contracts, all arrangements. I started the engine. They wanted to talk about how I just throw money around. Well, now they can handle it themselves. Where are you going? The spa. I have a massage booked. I smiled. I did pay for it, after all. As I pulled away, I glimpsed the first signs of chaos through the venue's windows. Sarah would be making her announcements now. The open bar would suddenly require payment. The photographer would pack up. The caterers would stop service. And the bills, every single itemized bill, would be distributed to the guests who'd sat there smugly watching my humiliation. My phone exploded with notifications. I connected it to the car's Bluetooth, letting the messages play through the speakers. Cora, what's happening? June's voice trembled. The venue says we need to pay. Delete. This is your mother. How dare you? Delete. Hey, it's Franklin. Look, I know things got out of hand. Delete. A new text from Kaya. OMFG. Your mom just tried to put everything on her credit card. It was declined. June's friends are leaving. This is better than Netflix. I pulled into the spa parking lot, feeling lighter than I had in years. The receptionist greeted me with a warm smile. Welcome, Ms. Norris. Your private relaxation suite is ready. Thank you. I handed her my phone. Could you keep this for me? I'm expecting some calls I'd rather not take. Of course. Would you like to see our wine list? Please. As I followed her to the suite, another text came through from Herbert. Bills are all distributed. Your mother's trying to reach the venue owner. Should I run interference? No, I typed back. Let her try. Sometimes lessons need to be learned the hard way. I changed into the plush spa robe, listening to the distant sound of waterfalls. My phone buzzed one final time before I handed it over. A message from Aunt Maeve. Your mother's face when the bar tab arrived. Worth every penny. But darling, was it worth burning the bridge? I thought about years of criticism, of diminishment, of being treated like an ATM while being told I wasn't family-oriented enough. Some bridges, I replied, need to burn so you can finally see what's on the other side. Then I turned off my phone, ordered a glass of champagne, and prepared to enjoy every minute of my very expensive revenge. After all, I had written the check for it. The massage therapist's hands worked out 15 years of family-induced tension from my shoulders, while my phone collected angry messages in the locker room. 2 hours of blissful silence, interrupted only by the soft meditation music and occasional sound of my own satisfied sighs. More pressure, Maria, the therapist, asked. Perfect as is, I melted into the table, though I might need an extra hour. Bad day. Actually, it's turning out better than expected. When I finally emerged from the treatment room, The receptionist gave me a sympathetic look. Your phone's been active, 37 missed calls. I assume none of them were pleasant. The last one was quite loud. She handed me the phone. Something about financial terrorism? I scrolled through the messages, each one more desperate than the last. The final voicemail was from Mother, her voice shrill with panic. Cora Elizabeth Norris, you answer this phone right now. The venue is demanding payment for everything. Everything. June's friends had to pay for their own drinks. The photographer left with all the photos. The caterers packed up the food. What have you done? I deleted it with a smile and dialed Kaya. You absolute legend, she answered, laughing. I wish you could have seen it. Your mother tried to pull the "Do you know who I am?" card with the venue manager. Sarah just kept showing her the contracts with your signature. How's June? Crying, obviously. But get this, her college friends bailed when they got stuck with the bar tab. Real friendship test right there. I settled into the spa's relaxation lounge, accepting a glass of infused water. And Franklin, actually handling it better than expected. He's been making calls, trying to sort things out. I heard him tell June that maybe they'd been taking advantage of you. Interesting. I sipped my water. Any other casualties? Those designer cupcakes you ordered, the ones Mother bragged about arranging. They got packed up right as she was showing them off to her church friends. Beautiful timing. My phone buzzed with another incoming call. Herbert, hold on, Kaya. I need to take this. Cora, Herbert said without preamble. Your mother's threatening legal action. For what? I paid for everything. Exactly. You paid. And you had every right to withdraw services. She's grasping at straws. Let her grasp. I examined my freshly manicured nails. How much is the final damage? Well, between the remaining venue fees, the bar tabs, the photographer's cancellation fee, and the catering balance, roughly $28,000, which they'll have to cover themselves. Your mother's credit cards are all maxed out. He cleared his throat. June's too. Not my problem. Franklin's been reasonable. He's offered to work out a payment plan. Decline it. I stood up, gathering my things. They wanted to handle everything without my money-throwing interference. Let them. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Maeve. You've created quite the scandal, she said when I answered. Half the country club will be talking about this for months. Good, maybe they'll think twice before inviting Mother to plan their events. June's a mess, says you've ruined her baby shower memories forever. Better than letting her ruin the rest of my life. I signed my spa bill, adding a generous tip. How's Mother taking it? She's already calling everyone she knows for loans. No takers so far. Apparently, her credit history isn't as pristine as she pretends. I stepped out into the evening air, feeling refreshed and remarkably unburdened. Any regrets? Only that I didn't record it all. Aunt Maeve chuckled. Though I did get a lovely photo of your mother's face when the bar tab arrived. Worth framing, really. My phone lit up with a text from Franklin. Can we talk? Just us. I think some apologies are overdue. Interesting timing, I muttered. What will you do now? Aunt Maeve asked. I got into my car, adjusting the mirror. In it, I saw a woman who finally looked free. Now, I'm going home, ordering takeout and enjoying the silence. They wanted to talk about money. Well, now they can talk about it amongst themselves. And tomorrow? Tomorrow I'll go back to being the successful career woman they love to criticize. Only this time, they'll know exactly what that means. As I drove home, my phone kept buzzing with messages and calls. Each one represented a person who'd watched me be humiliated, but was now desperate for my help. Each one would go unanswered, because sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about teaching people the value of what they took for granted, and judging by the mounting bills in their hands, that lesson was just beginning. Monday morning arrived with 53 unread messages and 12 voicemails. I deleted them all and walked into my office like any other day. My assistant Sandra met me with coffee and a knowing smile. Your mother called the office 6 times. Any other calls? The Thompson contract is signed. The merger meeting is at 2. And, she hesitated. Your sister's husband stopped by. Franklin was here. Said he wanted to talk business. Sandra handed me a folder. I told him you were in meetings all day. My office phone lit up. Your mother again, Sandra said. Let it ring. Kaya burst through the door, coffee in hand. Tell me everything. How was the spa? Did you sleep well? Have you checked social media? One question at a time. I logged into my computer. The spa was perfect. I slept like a baby. And no, I'm avoiding social media. Oh, you shouldn't. She pulled out her phone. Your mom's church friends are having a meltdown in the community Facebook group. Apparently, you've destroyed the sanctity of baby showers forever. Tragic. June's posted 3 crying selfies. The last one says, when your own sister betrays you on your special day. My phone buzzed. Aunt Maeve, your mother's holding an emergency family meeting tonight, she said, without greeting. She's trying to rally the troops against you. Good luck with that. I checked my calendar. Most of them owe me money too. Franklin's been asking questions about the business side of things. Has he? I pulled up my banking app. Interesting timing, considering June's credit card payment is due today. That's not all. Aunt Maeve lowered her voice. Your mother's been calling everyone about refinancing her house. Kaya, who'd been scrolling through social media, looked up sharply. Oh my God, you have to see this. June's college friends posted about the tacky cash bar, and your mom went nuclear in the comments. My office phone lit up again. Your sister this time. Sandra's voice came through the intercom. Still in meetings, Aunt Maeve sighed through the phone. Aurora's threatening to write a letter to your board of directors about your unethical business practices. The board that I'm on, I laughed. The one that values my ability to manage multi-million-dollar deals? She's desperate. Aunt Maeve paused. They all are. Good. I opened my email to find several messages from Franklin. Maybe now they'll understand what it feels like to be valued only for your financial contributions. Kaya perched on my desk. Franklin's been commenting on your professional achievements on LinkedIn. Every single post. Trying to butter me up? More like damage control. His law firm's partners follow you. My phone buzzed with a text from Herbert. June's trying to dispute the venue charges on her credit card. Not going well for her. Your mother's calling again, Sandra announced. I pressed the intercom. Sandra, hold all calls unless they're about the Thompson deal. And if Franklin comes by again, tell him my schedule's full through next month. What about the family meeting tonight? Aunt Maeve asked. I have a dinner with clients. I didn't, but they didn't need to know that. Besides, I think they need to figure this one out themselves. Aurora's saying you've turned your back on family. No, I corrected. I've turned my back on being their personal bank. There's a difference. Kaya showed me her phone again. June's posted another update. When money matters more than family bonds. It has 3 crying emojis. Interesting how family bonds only matter when they need something from me. Sandra buzzed again. Your mother's on all 3 lines now. Time to get some actual work done. I stood up, straightening my blazer. Sandra, I'm heading to the Thompson meeting early. Forward all family calls to voicemail. And the emergency meeting, Aunt Maeve pressed. Tell them I'm busy throwing money at my career. I grabbed my portfolio. That's what I'm good at, remember. As I walked to the conference room, my phone lit up with a text from Franklin. We need to talk about June's credit score. Delete. Another from Mother. This behavior is unacceptable. We raised you better. Delete. One from June. The bank called about the venue payment. Please, Cora, we need help. Delete. Kaya caught up with me at the elevator. You know they'll keep trying. Let them. I stepped inside, pressing the button for the executive floor. They wanted to talk about how I prioritize work over family. Well, now they can see exactly what that work provides. And if they apologize, then they better make it good. The elevator doors closed on the chaos I'd left behind. Because this time, sorry isn't going to pay their bills. The Thompson contract waited upstairs, ready to be finalized. Another multi-million-dollar deal that my family would never appreciate. until now, when they desperately needed the money it represented. Funny how karma works sometimes. 3 days of silence turned into a week. Well, silence from my end. My family's desperate attempts at contact grew more creative by the day. Mother even tried sending a singing telegram to my office. "You have to admit, that was a bold move," Kaya said over lunch, though the singer looked pretty uncomfortable, delivering a guilt trip ballad in your lobby. Sandra recorded it. I picked at my salad. The board got a good laugh. Speaking of bold moves, she slid her phone across the table. "Check your aunt's latest update." The photo showed Mother standing outside my childhood home, next to a "for sale" sign. The caption read, "Sometimes pride costs more than money." Subtle, I muttered. Franklin's been asking around about job openings at other firms. Kaya continued. Apparently, his partners aren't thrilled about the baby shower drama reaching their clients. My phone lit up, Herbert calling. "Your mother's here in my office," he said, without preamble, "with June. And they want to discuss payment plans for the shower expenses. June's crying about credit score impacts. Not my problem." "Cora," he lowered his voice. "They're desperate. Your mother's talking about bankruptcy. Funny how money matters now." A text came through from Aunt Maeve. "Aurora's selling her antique collection. The one she always said you weren't refined enough to inherit. Tell them I'm in meetings," I told Herbert. "They've been here 3 hours. Then they can leave 3 hours wiser." I ended the call just as Sandra buzzed my office phone. "Franklin's here again. Says it's urgent." For the first time in a week, I hesitated. Send him in. Franklin looked different. Tired, rumpled, less like the polished lawyer who'd watch silently during my humiliation. 2 minutes, I said before he could speak. "June's a mess." He remained standing. "Your mother's selling everything. Our credit is shot. I'm probably losing my partnership track. Sounds like consequences." "Look," he ran a hand through his hair. "I know we messed up. I should have spoken up at the shower. We all took you for granted." That's one way to put it. "June's having panic attacks about the baby's nursery. We can't get approved for any new credit cards." Still not hearing a point. He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo of June, curled up on their couch, clearly distraught. "She's your sister, Cora. Whatever happened?" "Whatever happened?" I stood up. "You mean when they publicly humiliated me? When they dismissed years of support? When they called me cold and calculating while happily spending my money? We were wrong. No, you were comfortable. Taking and taking while giving nothing but criticism in return." I walked to the window. "How's that working out for you? The baby's due in 4 months. I'm aware. The crib I ordered arrived yesterday. I canceled the delivery." His phone buzzed. June calling. He ignored it. "Your mother's house is in pre-foreclosure," he said quietly. "She has options. She could sell her designer handbags, or her vacation timeshare, or maybe call all those real family people she loves to compare me to." "Cora, please." "Please what, Franklin? Bail them out? Write another check? Go back to being the family ATM they can criticize between withdrawals?" Sandra buzzed again. "Your mother and sister just arrived in the lobby. Tell security not to let them up." Franklin stepped closer. "They're sorry." "No, they're broke. There's a difference." "Then what do you want? What will it take to fix this?" I turned to face him fully. "Fix what, exactly? The relationship they never valued? The support they took for granted? The success they resented?" His phone buzzed again. "Mother this time." "You should go," I said. "Sounds like they need you." "They need you." "No, they need my money. And for the first time they're realizing those aren't the same thing." He moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I always admired your drive, your success. June was jealous. Your mother was threatened. And now? Now they're just scared of losing more than money." After he left, I watched through my office window as he joined Mother and June in the parking lot. They huddled together, probably plotting their next attempt at reconciliation. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Maeve. "They're breaking, dear. Question is, are you ready for what happens when they do? I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled up the baby boutique website where June had registered. The silver rattle she'd dismissed sat in my cart, along with every other item on her wish list. One click would solve all their problems. I closed the browser. Some lessons cost more than money, and this one wasn't finished teaching yet. The knock on my apartment door came at 9 p.m., exactly 2 weeks after the baby shower. I knew who it was before I checked the peephole. June stood there alone, no makeup, wearing the ratty college sweatshirt she'd always refused to throw away. "You look terrible," I said, opening the door. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside, noting how she cradled her baby bump protectively. She settled on my couch, looking small against the modern furniture she'd once called soulless. "Mom doesn't know I'm here," she said quietly. "Of course she does. She's probably waiting in the car." "No, I mean it." June met my eyes. "I took an Uber. Franklin's at a partner meeting, trying to save his job." I remained standing. "What do you want, June?" I found the receipts, her voice cracked. "For the shower, all of them. Mom had thrown them away, but I needed to know." "And?" $47,000. She wiped her eyes. "Not counting the gifts you bought. The ones you spent months picking out. Is this the part where I'm supposed to feel appreciated? Because you finally looked at the price tag?" "No." She touched her stomach. "This is the part where I tell you I'm scared. Really scared. We can't afford anything for the baby. My credit cards are maxed. Franklin's firm is putting him on probation. Mom's losing the house. Sounds rough. I deserve that." She pulled out her phone. "But look at this. Really look." She showed me photos from the shower, before everything fell apart. The details I'd obsessed over were evident in every shot. The custom lighting that made everyone look perfect. The hand-calligraphed place cards. The precisely arranged flowers. "You did all this," she whispered, "while closing the Thompson deal, while handling the merger, while I complained about you not being there for tastings. Your point?" "My point is..." She struggled to stand, her pregnant belly making it awkward. "I was jealous, always have been. You made everything look so easy. Your career, your success. Even throwing the perfect baby shower seemed effortless for you. It wasn't. I know that now." She walked to my window, staring at the city lights. "Mom's a mess. She's lost everything, her status, her credit, her reputation. The country club actually revoked her membership. Tragic. She deserved it." June turned back to me. "We all did. We treated you like a bank while acting like you weren't good enough for the family. The same family you've been supporting for years." My phone buzzed. Aunt Maeve. June finally made the move. "How's it going?" "Why are you here?" I asked June directly. "Because I'm having a baby." Her hand rested on her bump. "A little girl. And I don't want her growing up thinking it's okay to treat people the way we treated you. I don't want her learning that success should be punished, or that money matters more than honesty." Pretty words. "I'm not asking for money." She stepped closer. "I'm asking for a chance to be a better sister, a better aunt to my daughter. I'm asking if it's too late to start over. And mother. She'll have to figure out her own way back, if there is one." I studied her face, the dark circles under her eyes, the worry lines that hadn't been there before. "The silver rattle," I said suddenly. "What?" "The shower gift you dismissed. Do you know why I chose it?" She shook her head. "Grandma Margaret used it to soothe us both when we were babies. Remember how she'd tell us that story, about how it was the only thing that would calm you down during thunderstorms?" June's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't even look at it properly. I was too busy trying to hurt you. Well, it worked. I'm so sorry, Cora." She reached for my hand. "For everything. For years of everything." I let her hold my hand for a moment before pulling away. "Sorry doesn't fix credit scores." "I know." She moved toward the door. "But maybe it's a start." As she reached for the handle, I spoke. "The rattle's still in my closet." She turned, hope flickering across her face. "I'm not saying I forgive you," I continued. "But maybe we can talk. About the baby. About starting over. Really." Don't make me regret it. She nodded, tears falling freely now. Thank you. After she left, I texted Aunt Maeve. June just left. She came alone. And maybe there's hope for one bridge not to burn completely. What about Aurora? I looked at the family photo, still sitting on my shelf, taken years ago, when success meant nothing and family meant everything. Some bridges, I typed back, need to stay ashes. The silver rattle caught the morning light as my niece's tiny fingers wrapped around it. She had mother's eyes, but thankfully none of her temperament. She hasn't cried once since you gave it to her, June said from the hospital bed. The nurses can't believe it. Grandma Margaret was right. I adjusted the baby's blanket. Magic rattle. Franklin entered with coffee, looking more relaxed than he had in months. His firm had kept him on after he'd taken full responsibility for his part in the shower incident. Humility, apparently, went a long way. Your mother's in the lobby, he said quietly. Again, June tensed. Did you tell her? Security's keeping her there. He handed me a cup. Your call, Cora. My phone buzzed. Aunt Maeve. Aurora's making quite a scene downstairs. Something about grandmother's rights. Let her make it, I replied, watching my niece drift to sleep. The past 3 months had been a study in consequences. Mother had indeed lost her house, moving into a small apartment that horrified her social circle. June and Franklin had started marriage counseling, working through the damage that financial stress and family dysfunction had caused. And I had learned to set boundaries. The trust fund set up, I told June, putting my coffee down. But the conditions stand. She nodded. No contact with mother until she completes therapy. No access to the money without financial counseling first. And we maintain separate holidays. She smiled sadly. No more forced family gatherings. The baby stirred, making those tiny noises that newborns do. Franklin took a photo, then showed me his phone. Mother pacing in the lobby, gesturing wildly at hospital staff. She'll never change, June said softly. No, I agreed. But we did. My phone lit up with messages from the family group chat I'd never left. Cousin Rachel, Aurora's posting about being banned from meeting her granddaughter. Should we tell her that's not how restraining orders work? Uncle Paul. Maybe she should have thought about that before threatening Cora at her office. Aunt Maeve. The therapy appointments are paid for. She's choosing not to go. I muted the chat and focused on the baby. She had June's nose, Franklin's chin, and hopefully none of the family's talent for emotional manipulation. I've been thinking, June said, adjusting her position. About names. Please tell me you're not still considering Aurora Jr. No. She exchanged looks with Franklin. We were thinking, Margaret, after Grandma. The rattle clinked softly as the baby moved. She'd like that, I said finally. And June hesitated. We want you to be godmother. You sure? I might be too busy with my cold, calculating career. That's why we want you. Franklin sat on the bed's edge. Someone needs to teach her that success isn't a character flaw. A commotion outside drew our attention. Mother's voice carried through the door. I demand to see my granddaughter. Security responded quickly. Through the window, we watched them escort her out, her designer knockoff bag swinging wildly as she protested. You know what's sad? June cradled little Margaret closer. She could be here right now. All she had to do was get help. Some people prefer their pride to their peace. I picked up the rattle, its silver surface reflecting our small group. But that's not our problem anymore. My phone buzzed one last time. Herbert, Aurora's threatening to contest the restraining order again. Let her, I typed back. Some battles aren't worth winning when you've already won the war. June touched my arm. Thank you, not just for the trust fund or the baby stuff, for giving me a chance to be better. Us, Franklin corrected. A chance for us to be better. Little Margaret yawned, completely unaware of the family drama swirling around her. She'd grow up knowing a different kind of love, one that didn't come with price tags or conditions. Want to hold her again? June asked. I took my niece, feeling her warm weight settle against my chest. The rattle chimed softly as I rocked her. "You know," I said, "Grandma Margaret used to say something about family, that it's not about who's blood and who isn't. It's about who stays when the money's gone and the masks come off." "Sounds wise," Franklin said. She was. I watched Margaret's eyes flutter closed, and she'd be proud of us, not for the success or the money, but for finally learning what real family means. Outside, Mother's car peeled away from the hospital parking lot, leaving only tire marks and wounded pride behind. But inside this room, with the silver rattle catching sunlight and new beginnings taking shape, we had everything we needed. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, loving better, and letting go.
The first warning sign should have been the empty coffee mug on my desk. Axel always brought me coffee on Wednesday mornings, a tradition we'd kept since our third date 2 years ago. But today, like the past 3 weeks, my desk sat bare. I'm Rosalind, and until recently, I thought I had it all figured out. A thriving career in corporate law, a handsome fiancé, and a sister who was my best friend since the day she was born. Funny how life has a way of shattering those perfect little illusions. "Earth to Roz!" Taya's voice cut through my thoughts as she perched herself on the edge of my desk. "You're doing that thing again, where you stare at nothing and look like someone killed your cat." I forced a smile. "Just thinking about Annika's birthday dinner tonight. Mom's going all out as usual." Taya's expression shifted, something flickering behind her eyes. "Speaking of Annika, have you noticed anything different about her lately?" "Different how?" "I don't know." She lowered her voice, glancing around our open-plan office. "She seems happier? Like, unusually happy for someone whose startup just tanked." I hadn't thought about that. Annika had been practically floating lately, despite losing her investors last month. When I'd offered to help, she'd brushed me off with a breezy, "Everything happens for a reason, Roz." My phone buzzed. A text from Axel. "Can't make it to dinner tonight. Emergency client meeting." "Third time this month," I muttered, showing Taya the message. She frowned. "Roz, honey, when was the last time you and Axel actually spent time together?" "We had breakfast last." I paused, counting backward. "Sunday?" "No, that was 2 weeks ago." "And you're not worried?" "He's launching a new investment fund. It's a crucial time." Taya grabbed my hand. "Remember what your grandmother used to say? When something feels wrong in your gut, it usually is." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with Annika's face. "Hey sis, you're coming tonight, right?" "Wouldn't miss it. Want me to bring anything?" "Just yourself." Her voice was practically singing. "And don't worry about Axel. I already heard he can't make it." I sat up straighter. "How did you?" "Oh, he mentioned it at the coffee shop this morning. Total coincidence. Anyway, gotta run. Love you." The line went dead before I could respond. Taya raised an eyebrow. "Coincidence?" she said. "Since when does Axel get coffee from that overpriced place Annika loves? He's been loyal to that corner deli near his office for years." "Maybe he was in the area," I said, but something cold settled in my stomach. "Roz?" Taya's voice was gentle but firm. "You need to open your eyes. First, the coffee tradition stops. Then he starts canceling plans. Now he's randomly running into your sister at coffee shops. What exactly are you suggesting?" I'm suggesting you pay attention. Watch them tonight at dinner." "Oh, wait, he conveniently can't make it." I stood up, gathering my files. "You're reading too much into this. Annika would never, she's my sister. And Axel is your fiancé, but that doesn't seem to mean much to him lately, does it?" I wanted to argue, but memories started flooding in. Annika asking about my relationship schedule, always knowing when Axel would be busy. The way she'd insisted on helping plan our wedding, then suddenly stopped mentioning it. The furtive glances at her phone, the quick exits from family gatherings. "I need to get back to work," I said, my voice tight. Taya stood, squeezing my shoulder. "Just, Keep your eyes open tonight. And remember, you're stronger than you think. As she walked away, I pulled up my calendar. Annika's birthday dinner was at 7 p.m. at our mother's house. I had exactly 6 hours to decide whether I was being paranoid or if my perfect little world was about to implode. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Axel. Miss you. Make it up to you this weekend? I stared at the message, remembering how he used to write paragraphs, not sentences. How he'd surprise me with lunch dates and random flowers. When had that stopped? And more importantly, why hadn't I noticed until now? I typed back a simple okay and turned my phone face down on my desk. Tonight, I decided, I would watch. I would listen. And maybe, just maybe, I'd finally see what everyone else seemed to notice but me. The birthday dinner was a disaster before it even began. I arrived early to help Mom set up, only to find Annika already there, humming as she arranged flowers in the dining room. You're early, I said, watching her adjust a rose. Just excited. She spun around, her smile too bright. Mom's letting me use her good china. Mom appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Rosalind, perfect timing. Could you check if the wine's chilled? Annika picked out Axel's favorite red, even though he can't make it. Wasn't that thoughtful? I froze. How did you know which wine Axel prefers? Oh, Annika's fingers fumbled with the flowers. You must have mentioned it. I didn't. The doorbell saved her from responding. As Mom rushed to answer it, I pulled out my phone and did something I'd been avoiding all day. I opened Axel's location sharing. We'd set it up months ago for safety, but I'd never checked it before. The blue dot pulsed mockingly at me. He wasn't at any client meeting. He was at his apartment. Ross? Annika's voice was soft. Everything okay? I looked up to find her watching me, concern painted across her face. The same expression she'd worn when I'd told her Axel proposed. The same look she'd given me when I'd asked her to be my maid of honor. Actually, no. I held up my phone. Axel's at home. Her face paled slightly. Maybe the meeting got canceled? Funny how you know so much about his schedule lately. What's that supposed to mean? Before I could answer, Mom returned with Taya in tow. Look who's early, too. Taya took one look at our faces and knew something was wrong. I brought wine, she announced, breaking the tension. And gossip. Lots of gossip. The evening progressed with forced smiles and careful conversations. I watched Annika check her phone every few minutes, always angling it away from me. At one point, she excused herself to take a call in the garden. I'm going to get some air, I told Mom and Taya, following my sister out. The summer evening was warm, but I shivered as I approached the garden. Annika's voice carried clearly through the darkness. You should have come. No, she doesn't suspect anything. Of course I feel bad, but listen, we need to tell her soon. No, you don't understand. I can't keep doing this. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and opened my messages with Axel. There, buried under months of loving texts, was a thread I'd never noticed before. Somehow, I'd archived it instead of deleting it. Unknown number. Meeting you was the best mistake I've ever made. Axel. We need to be careful. She trusts us both. Unknown number. I hate lying to her, but I love you more. Axel. Soon, baby. We'll tell her soon. The timestamps matched the weeks when our coffee tradition had ended, when Axel had started working late, when Annika had stopped talking about my wedding. Roz? Annika's voice cracked behind me. What are you doing out here? I turned slowly, phone still in hand. Funny thing about iCloud, I said, my voice eerily calm. Sometimes it syncs numbers you think you've hidden. She took a step back. I can explain. Can you explain why my sister and my fiancé have been sneaking around behind my back? Can you explain why you're texting him right now, pretending he's at a meeting? It's not what you think. Really? I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet garden. Because I think my sister is sleeping with my fiancé. I think they've been lying to me for weeks, maybe months. please tell me how that's not what I think. Tears filled her eyes. We didn't mean for this to happen. It just did. Things don't just happen, Anika. People make choices. Roz, please. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't you dare ask me to understand. Don't you dare ask me to forgive you. I walked past her, back toward the house where Mom and Taya were probably wondering where we'd gone. At the door, I paused. You know what the worst part is? I said, not turning around. I would have done anything for you. Both of you. I heard her sob, but I didn't look back. Inside, I grabbed my purse and keys. Rosalind? Mom called after me. Where are you going? We haven't even had cake. Ask your other daughter, I said. I'm sure she'll be happy to explain everything. Taya followed me out to my car. Want me to drive? I shook my head. I need to do something first. Ross? I'm okay, I said, surprising myself by how steady my voice was. I'm actually really okay. Because now I know exactly what I'm dealing with. I started the car, finally understanding what my grandmother meant about trusting your gut. Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies destroy everything they touch. 3 days after the birthday disaster, Mom called a family dinner. To clear the air, she said, as if betrayal could be solved over pot roast and mashed potatoes. I almost didn't go, but Taya convinced me otherwise. You need to show them you're not hiding, she said, as she helped me choose an outfit. Wear that red dress, the one that makes you look like you could buy and sell their souls. Walking into Mom's dining room felt like entering a battlefield. Axel was already there, sitting next to Anika. They sprang apart when they saw me, guilt written across their faces. Rosalind! Mom rushed forward, arms outstretched. I'm so glad you came. I stepped back. Let's skip the pretense, Mom. Why are we here? Sit down, please. She gestured to the table. We need to talk as a family. Family? I laughed. Is that what we're calling this now? Axel cleared his throat. Roz, please. Don't call me that. I turned to face him fully. You lost that right when you started sleeping with my sister. Rosalind, Mom gasped. There's no need for vulgarity. No need for... Are you serious right now? I stared at her. Your younger daughter has been having an affair with my fiancé, and you're worried about my language? Annika spoke up, her voice small. We wanted to tell you properly. When? After the wedding? Or were you planning to object dramatically at the ceremony? Actually, Axel stood up, reaching for Annika's hand. We have something to announce. My stomach dropped as I watched him pull something from his pocket. A small velvet box. The same one he'd used to propose to me 6 months ago. We're engaged, Annika said, slipping my ring, onto her finger. The room spun. Mom clapped her hands together. Isn't this wonderful? Now we can all move forward. Move forward? My voice sounded distant, even to my own ears. You think this makes everything okay? Darling, Mom placed her hand on my arm. These things happen. Sometimes people realize they're meant for someone else. The important thing is to handle it with grace. I shook her off. Grace? Like sneaking around behind my back? Like lying to my face for months? We fell in love, Axel said, as if that explained everything. We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did mean to steal my life, didn't you, Annika? I turned to my sister. My fiancé wasn't enough. You had to take my ring too? She at least had the decency to look ashamed. He had it reset. Of course he did, because that makes it better. Rosalind, Mom's voice took on that warning tone she used when we were kids. They're trying to make this right. The least you can do is support their happiness. I looked around the table, at my mother's pleading expression, at Axel's defiant stance, at Annika's trembling hands playing with my ring. Support their happiness, I repeated slowly. Like you're all supporting mine? Don't be dramatic, Mom sighed. You're young. You'll find someone else. That's not the point. I slammed my hand on the table, making the glasses rattle. The point is trust, loyalty, family, or have you forgotten what those words mean? We're still family, Annika whispered. Are we? Because from where I'm standing, you're just the person who betrayed me in the worst possible way. Enough! Mom stood up. Rosalind, either you accept this and behave civilly, or... Or what, Mom? You'll choose her side? Too late. You already have. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping as someone stood up. Roz, wait! Axel called out. I turned back one last time. You know what's funny? I actually feel sorry for you both. Because if you can do this to me, you can do it to each other, and you will. That's different, Annika protested. We're in love. So were we, I said, looking at Axel. Remember? The silence that followed was deafening. As I walked out, Mom's voice carried through the open door. Well, I think that went rather well, all things considered. I made it to my car before the tears came. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. Pure, clarifying rage. My phone buzzed with a text from Taya. How bad? I typed back. They're engaged. My ring. Mom's thrilled. Her response was immediate. I'm coming over, and I'm bringing tequila. Also, remember what you said about your grandmother's letter? I started the car, a plan forming in my mind. Yes. The letter. The one thing Anika didn't know about. The one card I hadn't played yet. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was done playing nice. Sterling's law office hadn't changed in 20 years. Same leather chairs, same dusty law books, same smell of coffee and old paper. He looked up from his desk as I entered, his eyes crinkling with recognition. Rosalind, he stood to greet me. I was wondering when you'd come. You heard. Small town. He gestured to a chair. Your mother called me yesterday, actually. Wanted to know if I could start working on Annika and Axel's prenup. I sat down hard. Of course she did. I declined. He poured 2 cups of coffee. Professional conflict of interest, given my long relationship with your grandmother. That's why I'm here. I pulled out my phone, showing him the photo I'd taken years ago. Grandmother's letter, the one she made me promise not to open until I really needed it. Sterling nodded slowly. Ah, and you think now is the time? My sister is wearing my engagement ring and planning a wedding with my ex-fiancé. Yeah, I'd say it's time. He walked to a wall safe hidden behind a painting, entering a combination with practiced ease. The letter he withdrew was yellowed with age, my name written in my grandmother's elegant script. Before I give you this, he said, holding it just out of reach. Are you sure you're ready for what it might say? What do you know about it? Enough to know it will change things, permanently. I reached for the letter. Things are already changed. He handed it over, watching as I broke the seal. The paper inside was thick, expensive, typical of my grandmother. As I read, my hands began to shake. This can't be right, I whispered. It is. Sterling sat back down. Every word. The house, the investment portfolio, everything. Your grandmother was very specific. The entire inheritance goes to you, not to be shared with Annika under any circumstances. I looked up. Why? She saw something in Annika even then, a pattern of behavior. He sipped his coffee. The incident with your prom date? The scholarship she convinced you to turn down? Your grandmother noticed? But this is... I checked the numbers again. This is millions. Which explains Axel's sudden interest in family dinners, doesn't it? A knock at the door interrupted us. Taya poked her head in. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was... She stopped, seeing my face. What did I miss? I handed her the letter. Her eyes widened as she read. Holy shit, she breathed. Does Annika know? No one knows except Sterling, I said. Grandmother made sure of that. And now you, Sterling added. The question is, what are you going to do with this information? Taya sat down next to me. Please tell me you're thinking what I'm thinking. That depends. Are you thinking about how quickly Axel would drop Annika if he knew she wasn't getting any inheritance? Exactly that. Sterling leaned forward. Be careful. Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't about revenge, I interrupted. This is about truth, about consequences. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Annika's planning an engagement party next weekend. Please be reasonable and attend. Taya read over my shoulder and snorted. Perfect timing. Indeed. I stood up. Sterling, I need copies of everything, and I need to know exactly what my rights are here. He nodded, already reaching for his files. The estate is yours to manage as you see fit. Your grandmother was very clear about that. Good. I turned to Taya. Feel like helping me plan a party? What kind of party? The kind where truth bombs get dropped and karma comes calling. Sterling cleared his throat. Rosalind, your grandmother trusted you with this for a reason. She believed in your judgment. And I won't let her down. I gathered the papers. But she also taught me that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their actions. As we left the office, Taya linked her arm through mine. You know they're going to hate you for this. They already betrayed me. Might as well give them a real reason. My phone buzzed again. Annika this time. Please come to the party. I need my big sister there. I showed Taya the message. She raised an eyebrow. You going to respond? Oh, I'll be there. I typed back a quick, wouldn't miss it, and pocketed my phone. And I'm bringing one hell of a wedding gift. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply letting the truth do its work. And thanks to my grandmother's foresight, I had all the truth I needed. I ran into Axel at the coffee shop the next morning. Not our old coffee shop, the pretentious one Annika loved. He was alone, staring at his phone with a furrowed brow. Trouble in paradise? I asked, making him jump. Rosalind. He straightened up. I didn't expect to see you here. Clearly. I ordered my coffee, ignoring how he shifted uncomfortably beside me. Something wrong? He hesitated. Actually, can we talk? Now you want to talk? But I followed him to a corner table anyway. I needed to know what game he was playing. It's about the engagement party, he said, fiddling with his cup. Annika's going a bit overboard. How so? She wants to rent out the Metropolitan. Full catering, live band, the works. I nearly choked on my coffee. The Metropolitan was the most expensive venue in town. And, he lowered his voice. She keeps talking about this inheritance she's expecting, making all these plans. What inheritance would that be? Your grandmother's? She said it's being split between you two. I let the silence stretch, watching him squirm. Finally, I said, interesting assumption. Before he could respond, someone called my name. I looked up to see Damien, a guy I knew from my gym, approaching our table. Rosalind, haven't seen you at kickboxing lately. Been busy. I gestured to the empty chair. Join us? Axel's face darkened as Damien sat down. I should go. Why? I smiled sweetly. We're just catching up. Damien, did you know Axel's engaged to my sister now? Damien's eyebrows shot up. Your sister? As in, the one you told me about at the gym? The one who… Yes, that sister. I turned back to Axel. You were saying something about inheritance? Axel stood abruptly. We can discuss this later. After he left, Damien whistled low. Well, that was uncomfortable. Sorry for dragging you into it. Are you kidding? This is better than my morning soap operas. He leaned forward. So what's this about inheritance? I found myself telling him everything. The letter, the betrayal, the upcoming party. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious. You're planning something, he said when I finished. Maybe. Need help? I studied him. Why would you want to help me? Because I've seen you at the gym, destroying that punching bag instead of dealing with this. He shrugged. And because I hate cheaters. My phone buzzed. Annika sending party details to the family group chat. The Metropolitan, Saturday night, black tie optional. Come celebrate our love story, the message read. Love story, I scoffed. More like betrayal biography. You know? Damien said thoughtfully. If you really want to make an impact, you need to let them dig their own grave first. What do you mean? Let them make it big. Let them invite everyone. Let them build up expectations. He grinned. The higher they climb, the harder they fall, I finished. I like how you think. I'm free Saturday, by the way. Are you asking to be my date to my sister's engagement party to my ex-fiancé? I'm offering to be your backup when you burn it all down. I found myself smiling, really smiling, for the first time in weeks. Deal! My phone buzzed again. Taya. Just got the invite. You sure about this? I typed back, more sure than ever. Looking up at Damien, I asked, how do you feel about helping me shop for a show-stopping dress? Only if you tell me the rest of your plan. Well, I pulled out the copy of grandmother's letter. It starts with this. As I outlined my ideas, Damien's grin grew wider. By the time we finished our coffee, we had a solid strategy, one that would let karma do most of the heavy lifting. You know, he said as we left the coffee shop, they're expecting you to either make a scene or not show up at all. Exactly, which is why I'm going to do neither. No dramatic confrontation? Oh, there will be drama. I checked my watch. But first, I need to make a few calls, starting with Sterling. The lawyer? If they want to talk inheritance, let's talk inheritance. I pulled out my phone. Time to set the stage for Saturday night. As I dialed Sterling's number, I caught my reflection in a store window. I looked different somehow. Stronger, clearer. Ready. You're kind of scary when you're plotting, Damien observed. Good, I said, as Sterling's office answered, because this is just the beginning. The Metropolitan buzzed with pre-party energy as staff rushed around setting up. I stood in the doorway, watching Anika direct people like a general commanding troops. The flower wall needs to be higher, she called out. And where's the champagne fountain? Champagne fountain? Taya whispered beside me. Someone's going all out. On credit, apparently. I adjusted my deep blue dress, the one Damien had helped me pick out. The venue alone must cost a fortune. Speaking of fortunes, Taya nodded toward Axel, who was having what looked like an intense phone conversation in the corner. He doesn't look happy. I moved closer, pretending to inspect the table settings. What do you mean, declined? Axel was saying. I've been with that bank for years. Yes, I understand, but no, I don't have another way to cover it. He hung up, running a hand through his hair. Annika bounced over to him. Baby, the band needs to know where to set up. And Mom's asking about the menu changes. Did you handle the deposit for the upgraded package? I watched his face carefully. Actually, sweetheart, about that. There you are! Mom's voice cut through the tension as she swept in. Rosalind, I didn't expect you so early. Just offering my support, I said sweetly. After all, what are sisters for? Annika's smile faltered slightly. Right. Thanks. The place looks amazing, I continued. Must be expensive. Oh, we're not worried about that. Annika waved her hand dismissively. Once everything's settled with grandmother's estate. What estate? Mom interrupted. What are you talking about? Axel stepped forward quickly. Maybe we should discuss this later. No, let's discuss it now. I perched on a nearby table. I'd love to hear about this estate you're counting on. Anika's face flushed. Well, grandmother always said she'd take care of us both equally. Did she? When exactly did she say that? I just assumed. You assumed you'd get half of everything? I pulled out my phone, checking the time. Interesting. Sterling should be here any minute. We can ask him about it. Sterling? Mom's eyes narrowed. Why would the family lawyer be coming to an engagement party? Because I invited him. I stood up as Sterling entered, right on schedule. Perfect timing. What's going on? Annika's voice had lost its confidence. Just clearing up some assumptions. I gestured for Sterling to join us. Sterling, my sister was just talking about grandmother's estate. Care to enlighten everyone? He pulled out a folder. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No need, I said. We're all family here, right? Axel moved closer, his eyes fixed on the folder. What is that? Your grandmother's final wishes, Sterling explained, which were quite specific. The entire estate, including this building actually, was left to Rosalind, exclusively. The silence that followed was delicious. That's impossible, Annika whispered. This building? Mom looked around. What do you mean, this building? The Metropolitan has been part of the family holdings for decades, Sterling explained, along with several other properties and investments, all under Rosalind's control now. Axel's face had gone pale. But you said your family owned... I never said anything, Annika cut in. You just assumed. Like you assumed you'd get half of grandmother's estate? I stood up. Funny how assumptions work. Mom stepped between us. There must be some mistake. Surely she meant for both girls. No mistake. Sterling handed her the documents. It's all quite clear. I watched as the implications sank in. Annika's elaborate party, the expensive venue, all the plans they'd made, all based on money that was never coming. So, I turned to Axel. About that deposit for the upgraded menu package? He couldn't meet my eyes. Annika looked between us, realization dawning. What's wrong with the deposit? The bank, he started. Declined his card, I finished. Awkward. Taya, who'd been quietly watching, finally spoke up. Should I tell the staff to stop setting up? Actually, I smiled. Let them continue. I'm paying for everything. You are? Annika's voice cracked. Of course. It's my building after all, and I wouldn't want to disappoint all your guests. I checked my phone again. They should be arriving in about an hour. Just enough time for you two to figure out what you're going to tell them. As I walked away, I heard Mom calling after me, but I didn't turn around. Let them stew in their own mess for a while. Damien was waiting by the bar. Phase 1 complete? Oh, yes. I watched Axel and Annika having what appeared to be their first real fight. And just in time for the main event. The Metropolitan filled with guests as the evening progressed. I watched from my position at the bar as Annika and Axel played the happy couple, their smiles growing more strained by the minute. Ready? Damien appeared beside me, looking sharp in his suit. Almost. I nodded toward the entrance where Sterling was letting in the last few guests, including several board members from Axel's investment firm. Just waiting for the full audience. Mom intercepted me as I moved toward the stage. Rosalind, please, whatever you're planning. What makes you think I'm planning anything? I know that look. It's the same one your grandmother used to get. Funny you should mention grandmother. I gestured to the microphone where Annika was preparing to make her speech. Let's hear what the happy couple has to say first. Annika tapped the microphone, her voice wavering slightly. Thank you all for coming tonight. I let her get through the usual platitudes. How she and Axel found love. How sometimes life surprises you. How family is everything. The irony wasn't lost on anyone who knew the truth. Then it was Axel's turn. When I first met Annika, through me, I called out, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. At our engagement party, wasn't it? A murmur went through the crowd. Axel's face reddened. Actually, I stood up, champagne glass in hand. I'd like to make a toast. Rosalind, Mom hissed, don't. To the happy couple, I moved toward the stage. To new beginnings, old rings, and hidden truths. Annika gripped the microphone stand. Ross, please. Oh, but I'm just getting started. I took the microphone. You see, everyone here knows the fairy tale version. But let me tell you the real story. This isn't the time. Axel stepped forward. No? When is the time? When you were sneaking around behind my back. When you gave her my engagement ring. Or maybe when you both assumed you'd be living off my inheritance. The room went dead silent. Oh, didn't everyone know? I turned to the crowd. My dear sister and ex-fiancé planned their whole future around money that was never theirs. Money that, as of last week, is legally and solely mine. One of Axel's board members stood up. What inheritance? The Metropolitan, for starters. I gestured around the room. This building, several others, plus a rather substantial investment portfolio, all of which Axel apparently thought came with my sister. That's not true! Annika grabbed for the microphone. We love each other! Really? I pulled out my phone. Should we read your texts from last month? The ones about how you couldn't wait to upgrade your lifestyle? Or Axel's messages about securing the family fortune? Axel's face went from red to white. How did you find them? Amazing what data recovery can do. I smiled at his board members. By the way, gentlemen, you might want to check the books at the firm. Someone's been making some interesting transfers lately. The whispers started immediately. Axel's boss stood up, phone already in hand. And Annika, I turned to my sister. Remember when you said everything happens for a reason? When your startup failed? She stepped back. Don't. Turns out the reason was embezzlement. Sterling has the proof, if anyone's interested. The room erupted in chaos. Axel's colleagues huddled together, phones out. Annika's former business partners, invited for show, started making calls. Mom sat down hard in a nearby chair. You've ruined everything, Annika sobbed. No, you did that all by yourself. Both of you. I handed the microphone to Damien. Oh, and about the party. Don't worry about the bill. Consider it my wedding gift, though I doubt there'll be a wedding now. As if on cue, 2 police officers entered with Sterling. Mr. Davidson, we'd like to ask you some questions about certain financial discrepancies. I watched as Axel was escorted out, his boss following with a thunderous expression. Annika stood alone on the stage, my old ring glinting mockingly on her finger. The ring, I said quietly. She pulled it off and threw it at me. I hate you. Funny, that's exactly how I felt when I found out about you two. I caught the ring and dropped it in my champagne glass. But unlike you, I did something productive with the feeling. The guests began filtering out, the party clearly over. Taya appeared at my side, grinning. That, she said, was better than any revenge movie I've ever seen. It wasn't revenge. I watched as Mom tried to console a crying Annika. It was justice. Damien touched my arm. Ready to go? I took one last look around the room, at the elaborate decorations, the shocked faces, the shattered remains of their perfectly planned deception. Nah, actually, I smiled. I think I'll stay. After all, it is my building. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's watching people face the consequences of their own actions. And from where I stood, karma had never looked better. The morning sun streamed through the Metropolitan's windows as I sat at the bar, sorting through paperwork. The place still smelled faintly of last night's party, champagne and shattered dreams. Coffee? Damien set a cup beside me. He'd shown up early, claiming he wanted to help clean up, but I suspected he just wanted to make sure I was okay. Thanks. I looked up as the door opened, revealing Mom. She looked tired, older somehow. I thought I'd find you here, she said, sliding onto a bar stool. Annika's gone. Gone where? She left a note, said she needs time to find herself. Mom's laugh was bitter, as if she's the victim in all this. And Axel? Released on bail this morning. His firm is pressing charges. She reached for my coffee, took a sip. You knew, didn't you? About the money laundering? Sterling found it when we were going through grandmother's papers. Axel had been using her old accounts to hide transactions. Why didn't you just turn him in? Because then everyone would have painted Annika as the innocent victim. Again. I sorted another stack of papers. They needed to face the consequences of their choices, together. The door opened again, Taya, carrying breakfast bags. I brought bagels and gossip. The firm's board met this morning. Axel's out. Good. I pulled out my grandmother's letter, smoothing its worn edges. You know what's funny? She wrote that she was leaving everything to me because I was the only one who never asked for it. Your grandmother was a wise woman, Mom said quietly. I should have listened to her about Annika. What do you mean? She tried to warn me years ago, said I was enabling Anika's worst instincts by always taking her side. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Rosalind. I failed you both. You didn't fail me. I reached for her hand. You just loved her too much to see her clearly. And now? Now you see everything. I pushed a folder toward her, including this. She opened it, frowning. What is it? Grandmother's original business plan for the Metropolitan. She built this place from nothing, turned it into something special. I stood up, walking to the windows. I want to do the same. You're keeping it? I'm renovating it, making it mine. I turned back to face them. Damien's going to help with the design. He grinned. Those kickboxing sessions were getting boring anyway. Taya raised an eyebrow. Just the design? Before I could respond, Sterling arrived, looking unusually disheveled. You need to see this. He handed me his tablet, an email from Anika. My heart stopped as I read it. What is it? Mom asked. A confession. I passed her the tablet. She's admitting everything. The affair, the embezzlement, all of it. She sent copies to the police and Axel's firm. Why would she do that? Because, I read the last line again. She says it's time to write her own story instead of stealing someone else's. The room fell silent as the weight of it settled. Finally, Damien spoke up. So what now? I walked behind the bar, pulling out glasses. Now? Now we plan a renovation. This place needs to be more than just another venue. It needs to be somewhere people come to celebrate real love, not convenient lies. To new beginnings? Taya raised her glass. To truth, Mom added. To karma, Damien winked. I looked at my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. The woman staring back wasn't broken or bitter. She was strong, clear-eyed, ready. To grandmother, I said, who knew exactly what she was doing. As we clinked glasses, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Axel. I'm sorry for everything. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. First order of business, I announced, pulling out the blueprints I'd been working on. The wall between the bar and the ballroom needs to go. We're opening this place up. No more hidden corners for secrets. As Damien leaned in to study the plans, his hand brushed mine. This time, I didn't pull away. You know, Taya said, watching us with a knowing smile, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, I finished, feeling lighter than I had in months. The morning sun caught the diamond ring still sitting in last night's champagne glass, making it sparkle. But I didn't need it anymore. I had something better. Truth, purpose, and the knowledge that sometimes losing everything is just the beginning of finding yourself. All right. I rolled out the blueprints fully. Let's build something real.
I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, mascara streaking down my cheeks. The sounds of laughter and chatter from my own baby shower filtered through the closed door, a cruel reminder that my special day had been hijacked. Again. My name is Samantha, and I should have known better than to let my sister anywhere near the planning of my baby shower. But my mother insisted, saying, Addison has such wonderful taste, darling, and you know how she loves to help. Help? More like steal the spotlight, which is exactly what happened 30 minutes ago. The day had started perfectly. The garden was decorated with soft pink and white roses, crystal champagne flutes sparkled in the spring sunshine, and my closest friends and family gathered to celebrate my first child. Even my usually stoic father Malcolm seemed touched, his eyes glistening when he hugged me. You're glowing, sweetheart, he whispered, pressing a kiss to my forehead. Actually, I do mind, I say quietly. This is my baby shower, Addison. My day. Her perfect smile falters. Don't be silly, Sam. I'm just trying to make it special. Special for whom? Before she can answer, I hear Liam calling from the garden. Sam, your mother wants to start the games. I look at my sister, at her flawless makeup and designer dress, at the ring that cost more than my car, and something hardens in my chest. This ends now. Coming, I call back. But as I brush past Addison, I make a silent vow to myself. No more playing nice. No more being the understanding little sister. It's time to show them all who I really am. 3 weeks after my ruined baby shower, I found myself sitting in a financial planning class at the local community center. Catherine had convinced me to join her, saying it would be therapeutic. I wasn't sure how spreadsheets could heal my wounded pride, but I was desperate enough to try anything. The key to independence, our instructor Sarah explained, is understanding where your money goes and how to make it work for you. I glanced around the room, surprised to see it filled with women of all ages. Some were taking furious notes, others nodding along knowingly. I felt like an imposter, the privileged daughter of a wealthy family who'd never had to worry about money. "Hey," Catherine whispered, nudging me. "Look what I found while organizing the firm's archives." She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a document that made my heart skip, a detailed record of Addison's spending habits and loans from our father. "Where did you get this?" I whispered back. "Perks of being a legal assistant at your father's firm." She winked. "Did you know Addison's been borrowing money monthly? That fancy apartment, the designer clothes, even that engagement ring. It's all Daddy's money." The revelation hit me like a truck. While I'd been working as a marketing consultant, building my own life with Liam, Addison had been living off our father's wealth. No wonder she could afford to overshadow everyone. She wasn't paying for any of it. After class, Catherine and I grabbed coffee at the cafe next door. "I can't believe she's that dependent," I said, stirring my decaf latte. "She always acts so successful." "It's all smoke and mirrors," Catherine replied. "But here's what I don't get. Why does your dad enable it?" My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil. "Samantha, darling." Addison's voice chirped through the speaker. "I need a teensy favor. Can you spot me $5,000 just until next month? The wedding planner needs a deposit." I nearly choked on my coffee. $5,000? I know, but Daddy's maxed out this month's allowance, and Orlando's trust fund payment doesn't come through until next quarter. Please? You're my sister. I caught Catherine's eye across the table. She raised an eyebrow. "I'll need to think about it," I replied carefully. "But I need it today. The venue won't hold the date without a deposit." "Then maybe you should consider a different venue," I suggested, surprising myself with my firmness. Silence on the other end. Then, "Wow, I can't believe you're being so selfish. After everything I've done for you?" "Like what, exactly?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. "I planned your baby shower." "You mean the one where you announced your engagement?" Another silence. "I have to go," she said finally. "Orlando's calling, but we'll talk about this later." The line went dead. Catherine slow clapped. "Finally!" she exclaimed. "You stood up to her." But my mind was already racing ahead. "I need your help," I said, pulling out my laptop. "Show me everything you know about financial planning." Everything went smoothly until the gift opening ceremony. I had just unwrapped a beautiful handmade blanket from my best friend Catherine when Addison cleared her throat and clinked her glass. "Everyone, I have an announcement," she trilled, her voice carrying across the garden. My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. "Orlando and I are engaged." For the next 2 hours, Catherine walked me through basics of investment, budgeting, and digital literacy. By the time we finished, I had enrolled in 3 online courses: Advanced Excel, Digital Marketing, and Personal Finance Management. "What exactly are you planning?" Catherine asked as we packed up. "I'm not sure yet," I admitted. "But I know I need to be smarter, stronger, more independent. No more letting Addison walk all over me." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Liam. "Hey, where are you?" "Your mom's been calling. Something about Addison needing emergency sister time?" I rolled my eyes. "I'm busy. Tell her I'm at a prenatal class." "Sam." Liam's voice softened. "I know the baby shower thing upset you, but she's still your sister." "And I'm still your wife," I shot back. "But that didn't stop you from celebrating while I cried in the bathroom." "That's not fair." No, what's not fair is everyone always taking her side. I'm done with that. I hung up, hands shaking. Catherine gave me a concerned look. You okay? I nodded, placing my hand on my growing belly. For the first time in a long time, I think I will be. As we left the cafe, I spotted a familiar document poking out of the folder. A loan agreement between my father and Addison, with terms that made my eyebrows shoot up. This wasn't just pocket money. This was serious debt. Catherine, I said slowly, I think I just figured out how to teach my sister a lesson about independence. She grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. Want to know what else I found in those archives? I smiled back, feeling a surge of confidence I hadn't experienced in years. It was time for Addison to learn what it means to stand on her own 2 feet, whether she wanted to or not. You want me to what? Catherine stared at me across her dining room table, surrounded by spreadsheets and financial documents. Help me create a presentation showing exactly how much money Addison owes, I repeated, highlighting another figure on the loan statement. Dad needs to see the full picture. And you really think he'll cut her off? Not immediately, but once he sees how she's bleeding him dry. I patted my 7-month baby bump. Let's just say I'm not the only one who needs to grow up. My phone buzzed for the 10th time that morning. Another missed call from Addison. I'd been dodging her for 2 weeks since refusing the loan, and it was clearly driving her crazy. Speaking of your sister, Catherine said, did you see her latest Instagram post? I pulled up the app. There was Addison, posed in front of a luxury car dealership, caption reading, testing out wedding getaway cars with my love. Na blessed tirum future Mrs. Stevenson. She's still pretending everything's fine, I muttered. But look at the date on this latest loan request. Catherine leaned over. That's from yesterday. $5,000 for a car deposit? Which she asked me for last week. She's desperate. My phone rang again. This time it was Orlando, Addison's fiancé. That was new. I answered, putting it on speaker. Samantha. Sorry to bother you, but I'm worried about Addison. Oh? I kept my voice neutral. She's been different lately, anxious. She mentioned you two had a disagreement about a loan. I caught Catherine's eye. She nodded encouragingly. I just think it's time Addison learned to manage her own finances, I said carefully. Don't you want your future wife to be financially responsible? A pause. Actually, that's partly why I'm calling. I found some concerning documents in her apartment. Bills, overdue notices. I had no idea she was in this situation. Really? I feigned surprise. I thought you two discussed everything. We discuss a lot of things, he said slowly. But money, she always said her family handled that. Perfect. Seeds of doubt planted. After hanging up, Catherine whistled low. That was masterful, but aren't you worried about pushing them apart? If their relationship can't survive financial honesty, maybe it shouldn't survive at all. My laptop pinged. An email from my father's accounting department. I'd requested copies of my trust fund documents. Claiming pregnancy brain made me forget the details. Instead, I'd gotten a gold mine. Complete records of both Addison's and my accounts. The collective gasps and squeals that followed made me want to throw up. Or maybe that was just the morning sickness that still hadn't quite gone away at 6 months pregnant. Look at this ring. Addison thrust her left hand forward, the enormous diamond catching the sunlight. We're thinking of a winter wedding in Aspen. Samantha, you'll have had the baby by then. You can be my maid of honor. Holy shit, Catherine breathed, looking over my shoulder. Is that how much she's borrowed in total? And look at the interest rates Dad's charging. Practically nothing. He's enabling her. A knock at Catherine's door made us both jump. Through the window, I saw Addison's red convertible parked outside. How did she find me? I hissed. Find my iPhone, Catherine groaned. Quick, hide the documents. I shoved everything into my laptop bag just as Catherine opened the door. Addison burst in, mascara smeared. Why are you avoiding me? She demanded. I've been calling for weeks. I've been busy, I said, gesturing to my belly. You know, preparing for my actual baby? Too busy to help your sister? The venue canceled. They gave away our date because I missed the deposit deadline. That's terrible, I said, not even trying to sound sincere. Maybe try somewhere more affordable? Addison's face crumpled. Orlando suggested the same thing. He's been asking all these questions about money lately. Did you say something to him? Me. I barely know him. But since you're here, I pulled out a single document from my bag. I did some research on financial planning. Did you know most couples fail because of money issues? She snatched the paper, a basic budget template I'd prepared. What's this supposed to be? A wake-up call. You can't keep living off Dad forever. I don't live off... She stopped, face paling. How do you know about that? Does it matter? The point is you need help. From you? She laughed bitterly. Little sister wants to teach me about money? Actually, yes. I stood up, meeting her eye to eye. I'm offering to help you become independent, really independent, but it has to be on my terms. Addison's lower lip trembled. For a moment, I saw past the perfect makeup and designer clothes to the scared little girl beneath. Orlando wants a prenup, she whispered. I don't know what to do. I shared a look with Catherine. This was it, my chance to either destroy my sister or save her. Sit down, I said, pulling out the budget template again. Let's talk about your future. Your real future, not the fantasy you've been living in. Addison hesitated, then sank into the chair across from me. As I opened my laptop, I felt a shift in the air. The balance of power had finally changed. Family dinners at my parents' house had always been tense, but tonight was different. I sat at the massive oak table, 8 months pregnant and armed with knowledge that could tear everything apart. More wine, Orlando? My mother offered, ever the perfect hostess. No, thank you, he replied, glancing at Addison. We're trying to cut back on expenses. Dad lowered his fork. Expenses? With the wedding coming up? Actually, Addison cleared her throat. We're thinking of postponing. Maybe something smaller. Smaller? Mom looked horrified. But we've already told everyone about Aspen. I took a sip of water, hiding my smile. 2 weeks of financial counseling with Addison had already started showing results. Speaking of money, Dad turned to me. How's that new investment portfolio I set up for the baby? Before I could answer, Liam jumped in. It's amazing, Malcolm. The returns are incredible. That's because Dad knows how to manage money, Addison said quickly. Unlike some people who think budgeting spreadsheets solve everything. I met her gaze across the table. Spreadsheets don't solve problems. They just make them visible. Orlando shifted uncomfortably. Actually, I've been looking at those spreadsheets Samantha made. They're quite enlightening. Enlightening? Dad's bushy eyebrows shot up. What spreadsheets? Just some basic budgeting tools, I said innocently. Addison asked for help with wedding planning. Mom brightened. Oh, that's wonderful. You girls working together. Together isn't exactly how I'd put it, Addison muttered. What does that mean? Liam asked. It means, Addison's voice rose, that my little sister suddenly thinks she's a financial guru trying to control my life. Control? I laughed. That's rich coming from you. How's that venue deposit coming along? Girls, Mom warned, but Dad held up his hand. What venue deposit? Addison paled. Nothing, Daddy. Just a small cash flow issue. Small? Orlando interjected. Addison, you told me it was $50,000. The room went silent. Dad's face turned red. 50,000? On top of what you already owe me? Malcolm. Mom touched his arm. Not at dinner. No, Lucia, this needs to be addressed. He turned to Orlando. Did you know about the loans? I looked desperately at my husband, Liam, silently pleading for support, but he just smiled and raised his glass along with everyone else. Congratulations, Addison. Orlando, welcome to the family. Catherine squeezed my hand under the table. She knew. She always knew. Isn't this wonderful? My mother Lucia gushed, floating between guests like a butterfly. Both my girls celebrating such beautiful milestones. Orlando's jaw tightened. I'm learning more every day. Samantha, Addison's voice cracked. You promised not to say anything. I haven't said anything, I replied calmly. Your spending habits speak for themselves. That's enough. Mom stood up. This is supposed to be a family dinner. Family? I pushed back my chair. You mean the family that always takes Addison's side? The family that lets her steal every important moment of my life? Sam. Liam reached for my hand, but I pulled away. No, let's talk about family. Let's talk about how Dad's been enabling Addison's spending for years while pretending it's business loans. Let's talk about how she's never had to work for anything because everyone's too afraid she'll fall apart. How dare you? Addison shot up. You're just jealous because... Because what? I cut her off. Because I actually earned my way? Because I don't need Daddy's money to impress people? Orlando stood up slowly. I think I should go. Orlando, please. Addison grabbed his arm. I can explain everything. Can you explain this? He pulled out his phone, showing what looked like a bank statement. Your father's not the only one you've been borrowing from, is he? The color drained from Addison's face. How did you... Your sister's spreadsheets made me curious. I did some digging of my own. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Everyone sit down. Now. We all sank back into our chairs. Even Mom, usually quick with a distraction, stayed silent. Addison? Dad's voice was dangerously quiet. Exactly how much money are we talking about? She burst into tears. I don't know. I lost track. Lost track? Orlando's voice rose. We're talking hundreds of thousands. Malcolm, Mom whispered. Surely there's been a mistake. No mistake, I said, pulling out my tablet. It's all right here. Every loan, every credit card, every emergency withdrawal. I've been tracking it for weeks. You had no right, Addison screamed. Actually, Dad said, reaching for my tablet, she had every right. This affects all of us. The family reputation, the business. The business? Orlando's head snapped up. What does this have to do with the business? Another heavy silence fell. I caught Catherine's warnings in my head about pushing too far, too fast. But it was too late now. Maybe, I said, standing again. We should continue this discussion when everyone's had time to process. My baby doesn't need this stress. As I waddled toward the door, Liam following close behind, I heard Orlando ask one final question that made me smile. Addison, what exactly did you mean when you said the family business was your backup plan? The morning after the disastrous family dinner, I woke up to 37 missed calls and one very angry sister pounding on my front door. Open up, Samantha. I know you're in there. Liam stirred beside me. Should I? No, I said, hauling my pregnant body out of bed. I'll handle this. I opened the door to find Addison looking like she'd slept in her clothes. Her perfect hair was a mess, and her mascara had created dark circles under her eyes. Orlando left me, she spat. Are you happy now? Come in before the neighbors call the police. She stormed into my living room, whirling to face me. Dad froze all my accounts. My credit cards are canceled. Even my emergency fund is gone. Sounds like consequences finally caught up with you. This is all your fault. You and your stupid spreadsheets. My spreadsheets didn't create your debt, Addison. You did that all by yourself. She collapsed onto my couch, mascara-stained tears rolling down her cheeks. What am I supposed to do now? I can't even pay my rent. Get a job, I suggested, lowering myself carefully into an armchair. Like normal people do? A job? She looked at me like I'd suggested she live in a dumpster. I have a career. Being Dad's social media consultant isn't a real job. We both know that's just his way of keeping you on the payroll. My phone buzzed. A text from Orlando. Can we meet? Need to talk about what you found. Who's that? Addison demanded. None of your business. Just like my financial records weren't your business when you tried to hack into them last month. She had the grace to look embarrassed. How did you know about that? Because I'm not an idiot. I saw the login attempts from your IP address. I just wanted to know how you were tracking everything. How you knew about the loans. I excused myself and fled to the bathroom, which brings me to now, trying not to completely break down while my own baby shower continues without me. A soft knock on the door. Sam? It's Catherine. Can I come in? I unlock the door and Catherine slips inside, immediately pulling me into a hug. Your sister is such a bitch, she whispers, making me laugh despite myself. Did you see Liam's face? I ask, dabbing at my eyes with tissue. He didn't even care. Maybe if you'd asked nicely instead of trying to steal information, I would have helped you. Helped me? She laughed bitterly. You've destroyed my life. Orlando won't return my calls, Dad thinks I'm a criminal, and Mom can barely look at me. And whose fault is that? I stood up, anger finally breaking through. You've been living a lie, Addison. Pretending to be successful while drowning in debt. Using Dad's money to overshadow everyone else's achievements. Even my baby shower wasn't sacred enough for you. That's what this is about? You're still mad about the engagement announcement? It's about everything. Every birthday, every achievement, every milestone, you had to make it about you. And you did it all with borrowed money. A key turned in the lock. Liam coming back from his morning run. He froze in the doorway, assessing the scene. Should I come back later? No, I said firmly. This is your house, too. Addison was just leaving. Leaving to go where? She cried. I have nothing left. You have choices, I replied. Get a real job. Sell your designer clothes. Move to a cheaper apartment. Or keep playing victim while everyone else moves on with their lives. My phone buzzed again. Orlando confirming a meeting time at a local cafe. Why is Orlando texting you? Addison grabbed for my phone, but I pulled it away. Because unlike you, I actually understand business ethics. Business ethics? Her eyes widened. What did you tell him about the company? Nothing he couldn't find out himself once he started looking. Did you really think he wouldn't discover the truth about your investment portfolio? Liam stepped between us. Maybe we should all take a breath. Stay out of this, Addison snapped. This is between me and my sister. No, I said quietly. This is between you and reality. And reality's winning. She stood up, smoothing her wrinkled dress. You think you're so clever, don't you? Little Miss Perfect with her spreadsheets and her happy marriage and her baby on the way. But you forget, I know things about you too. The difference is I have nothing to hide. Her lips curved into a mean smile. We'll see about that. You're not the only one who can play detective. As she stormed out, slamming the door behind her, Liam turned to me. What did she mean by that? I rubbed my belly, feeling the baby kick. Nothing. She's desperate and lashing out. But as I watched her car speed away through the window, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Addison had always been dangerous when cornered, and I'd just backed her into the tightest corner of her life. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Catherine. Just heard from the office. Your sister's been asking about your old case files. Watch your back. She did what? I nearly spilled my herbal tea across the cafe table where Orlando and I were meeting. Tried to sell her engagement ring, Orlando said, running a hand through his hair. The jeweler called me because something seemed off. Turns out she'd already taken out a loan against it months ago. Before or after the baby shower announcement? Before. He looked tired, older somehow. The whole engagement was built on lies. Catherine, who'd insisted on joining us, leaned forward. That's not all. She came to the firm yesterday, demanding access to old files. What files? Orlando asked. Anything related to Samantha or the family business, Catherine replied. When we refused, she threatened to go to the press about corporate irregularities. My hand instinctively went to my belly. At 8.5 months, stress was the last thing I needed. She's bluffing, I said, but my voice wavered. Is she? Orlando pulled out his phone. Look at her latest Instagram post. The photo showed Addison, perfectly styled despite everything, standing in front of Dad's office building. The caption read, "Time to expose some family secrets. Truth will prevail. Justice. No more lies." "She's lost it," Catherine whispered. My phone rang, Mom's name flashing on the screen. "Hello? Samantha, please come to the house. Your sister. She's making demands." "Men can be oblivious," Catherine says, helping me fix my makeup. "But this isn't about Liam right now. This is about Addison stealing your thunder. Again." "Like my college graduation," I say bitterly, when she announced her promotion during my valedictorian speech. "And your wedding," Catherine adds, when she brought that Spanish prince as her +1 and spent the whole reception doing the flamenco. I could hear shouting in the background. Addison's voice, Dad's deeper tones. "What kind of demands?" "She wants control of her trust fund. Says if we don't give it to her, she'll go public with something about your old marketing clients." My blood ran cold. She wouldn't dare. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Orlando stood up. "I'm coming with you." "Me too," Catherine added. The drive to my parents' house was tense. When we arrived, we found Addison in the living room, facing off against Dad while Mom hovered nervously nearby. Well, well," Addison sneered when she saw us. "The gang's all here." "What are you doing?" I asked. "Getting what's mine. Did you really think you could destroy my life without consequences?" "You destroyed your own life," Orlando said quietly. "We just uncovered the truth." "Truth?" She laughed. "Like the truth about how my perfect sister helped certain clients hide their assets during divorces?" The room went silent. Dad turned to me, face pale. "What is she talking about?" "Nothing," I said quickly. "It was all legal." "Legal but ethical?" Addison pressed. "I wonder what the ethics board would think about those creative accounting methods you suggested." "That was 5 years ago," I protested, "and I reported everything to compliance. After the fact," she shot back. "I have copies of the original documents. Amazing what you can find when you start digging." Orlando stepped forward. "Are you really going to destroy your family's reputation out of spite?" "Spite?" Addison's voice cracked. "You all ruined everything. My wedding, my relationship, my life." "No one ruined anything," Dad said firmly. "You made choices. Bad ones. And now you're making worse ones," Catherine added. Addison pulled out a USB drive. $1 million. That's my price for these files." "You're blackmailing us?" Mom gasped. "I'm negotiating." Addison's hand shook. 1 million and I disappear. Start fresh somewhere else." I walked over to her slowly, my pregnant belly making me waddle slightly. "You want to start fresh? Here's my counteroffer. I'll help you find a job. A real one. I'll teach you actual financial management. I'll even help you rebuild your relationship with Mom and Dad." "Why would you do that?" "Because despite everything, you're my sister. And this baby deserves to know their aunt. The real you, not this desperate person you've become." Tears welled in her eyes. "It's too late." "It's not," Orlando said. "But you need help, Addison. Professional help." Dad cleared his throat. "I know a good therapist, and I'll pay for it. But that's the last money you'll get from me until you prove you can be responsible." Addison looked around the room, at all the faces watching her. The USB drive trembled in her hand. "I don't know how to be different," she whispered. "Then let us help you learn," I said, reaching for her hand. "But no more threats, no more lies, no more manipulation." She stared at the USB drive for a long moment, then placed it in my palm. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." As she collapsed into tears, Mom rushed forward to hold her. Dad pulled out his phone, presumably to call the therapist. Orlando and Catherine exchanged relieved looks. I sat down heavily, exhausted but relieved. The baby kicked, as if sensing the tension breaking. "Samantha?" Addison looked up from Mom's embrace. Did you mean it? About helping me? Yes, I said, but this time we do it my way. Another knock. Samantha? It's Addison. Are you okay in there? Everyone's waiting to finish opening presents. I catch Catherine rolling her eyes in the mirror. Just a minute, I call out, trying to keep my voice steady. Morning sickness. Oh, poor thing. Addison coos through the door. I can't wait until it's my turn. Orlando and I want at least 3 children. We're thinking of starting right after the wedding. I grip the sink so hard my knuckles turn white. Catherine places a steadying hand on my shoulder. You should go back out there, she whispers. Show them you're stronger than this. I shake my head. I can't. I can't sit there and watch everyone fawn over her ring while my baby shower becomes her engagement party. Then don't. Catherine's eyes meet mine in the mirror. Go out there and take back your day. This is about you and your baby, not her. I take a deep breath, straighten my dress, and open the door. Addison stands there, twisting her new ring around her finger. Finally, she exclaims. I was getting worried. Oh, and I hope you don't mind, but I invited Orlando's parents to join us. They're on their way. Something snaps inside me. Years of being overshadowed, of playing second fiddle, of smiling through gritted teeth. It all comes rushing to the surface. Push! Just one more big push. The doctor's voice seemed to come from far away as I gripped Liam's hand with crushing force. Moments later, a sharp cry filled the delivery room. It's a girl! Through my exhausted haze, I saw Liam's eyes fill with tears as they placed our daughter on my chest. She's perfect, he whispered. Hours later, after we'd settled into the recovery room, there was a soft knock at the door. Addison poked her head in, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Is it okay if I come in? Of course, I said, surprised she'd asked permission at all. 2 months of therapy had already created subtle changes in my sister. She approached the bed carefully, carrying a small gift bag. I got her something. Nothing expensive, she added quickly. I made it myself. Inside was a hand-knitted baby blanket, slightly uneven but clearly made with care. You learned to knit? My therapist suggested finding hobbies that don't involve spending money. She smiled sheepishly. Turns out I'm not terrible at it. It's beautiful, I said sincerely. Want to hold your niece? As I placed the baby in her arms, Addison's face softened. She looks just like you. Poor kid, I joked, and we both laughed. A genuine moment of sisterly connection that would have seemed impossible months ago. I got the job, she said suddenly. The entry-level position at the marketing firm you recommended. That's wonderful. The salary's tiny compared to what I'm used to, but... She shrugged. It's honest work. How's the apartment hunting going? Found a studio within my new budget. It's small, but it's yours, I finished. Really yours. The baby stirred, and Addison handed her back just as Orlando appeared in the doorway. Sorry I'm late, he said. Traffic was terrible. He gave Addison a polite nod, their first interaction since the breakup. I should go, Addison said quickly. My financial literacy class starts in an hour. As she gathered her things, Orlando cleared his throat. I heard about the job. Congratulations. Thanks, she replied softly. And I'm sorry. For everything. He nodded, accepting the apology without elaboration. After Addison left, Orlando turned to us. I actually came to discuss something important. It's about the family business. Liam sat up straighter. What about it? I've been doing some consulting work for your father, Orlando explained, looking at ways to modernize operations, and I found something interesting about those client files Addison threatened to expose. My heart skipped. Orlando. No, this is good news. Those creative accounting methods you developed? They were actually brilliant. Completely legal, just unconventional. With some refinement, they could revolutionize how the firm handles client asset management. What are you saying? I'm saying your father wants to offer you a position, head of innovation and strategic development. You'd be working directly with the board to implement your ideas across the company. I looked down at my daughter, sleeping peacefully. I don't know. It's a flexible position, Orlando continued. Work from home options, full maternity leave. Your father's finally realized he needs to modernize more than just the business practices. Liam squeezed my hand. It's your decision, but I think you'd be amazing. What about Addison? I asked. Won't she feel... This isn't about Addison, Orlando said firmly. It's about recognizing talent and merit. Something your father should have done years ago. A knock interrupted us. Dad himself entered, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. I heard my granddaughter arrived, he said softly, then noticed Orlando. You've told her? I nodded. I'm considering it. Take your time, Dad said, surprising me. But know that this offer comes with no strings attached. No family drama, no playing favorites, just recognition of your abilities. And Addison? Is on her own path now, he replied. One she needs to walk without our interference, just like you need to walk yours. He approached the bed, gazing down at his granddaughter. What's her name? Emma, I said. It means whole or universal. Because she brought our family full circle. Dad's eyes glistened. Perfect. He cleared his throat. Now, about that job offer. I'll do it, I said suddenly, surprising myself. But on one condition. Name it. I want to start a mentorship program for young professionals, teaching them real financial independence, business ethics, personal responsibility. Everything I had to learn the hard way. Dad smiled. Like mother, like daughter. She's not even a day old and you're already thinking about teaching the next generation. As if on cue, Emma opened her eyes, looking up at all of us with that unfocused newborn gaze. Welcome to the family, little one, Dad whispered. The new, improved version. Emma's first birthday party was everything my baby shower should have been. Intimate, joyful, and drama-free. I watched my daughter smash her cake with gleeful abandon while our closest family and friends laughed and took photos. She definitely got your determination, Catherine remarked, watching Emma methodically destroy the butterfly-shaped cake. And hopefully some of her aunt's creativity, Addison added, adjusting the handmade birthday banner she'd crafted. No designer decorations this time. Everything was personal, meaningful, and made with love. My phone buzzed with a work notification, but I ignored it. The innovation department could wait. Today was about family. Ignoring work calls? Liam teased. Who are you and what have you done with my wife? I learned from the best, I said, nodding toward Dad, who'd left his phone in the car for the entire party. Mom appeared with a stack of gifts. Present time. Speaking of presents, Addison said nervously, I have something to show you all. She pulled out a folder, not a designer handbag or expensive trinket in sight. What's this? Dad asked. My first client portfolio. She beamed. I landed them completely on my own. No family connections, no borrowed money, just hard work and actual skill. Orlando, who'd remained friends with the family despite everything, raised his glass. Congratulations, that's genuinely impressive. It is, I agreed, meaning it. The sister who once needed validation through expensive shows of grandeur now glowed with authentic pride. And, she continued, I made my first student loan payment yesterday. Only 29 more to go. Mom wiped away tears. Both my girls, successful in their own right. Different kinds of success, I added, watching Emma grab another handful of cake. All equally valuable. Which reminds me, Dad cleared his throat. The board approved your mentorship program proposal yesterday. Full funding, starting next quarter. I hugged him, getting cake frosting on his usually immaculate suit. He didn't even flinch. Remember when we could barely be in the same room? Addison mused, helping Emma unwrap a present. Now look at us. Actual functioning adults. Speak for yourself. I laughed. I still have spit up in my hair most days. But you're rocking it, Catherine interjected, The program you designed for new employees is changing lives. 3 of my friends have already signed up for the next session. It's amazing what happens when you let people grow at their own pace, I said, watching Addison show Emma how to play with her new toy. Without competition or comparison. Liam wrapped his arm around me. You did that. You turned revenge into redemption. We all did it, I corrected. Even you, Mr. Don't Make a Scene, finally learned to stand up for what's right. I learned from my wife. He grinned. And I'll never doubt your instincts again. Emma toddled over to Addison, arms raised. Without hesitation, my sister scooped her up, not caring that the cake-covered baby was ruining her work clothes. Remember when I thought designer labels were a personality trait? She chuckled. Remember when I thought proving you wrong was more important than helping you grow? I countered. Orlando raised an eyebrow. Remember when you two nearly destroyed each other over a baby shower? Never again, Addison said firmly, bouncing Emma on her hip. I'm done living in shadows, yours or anyone else's. My new apartment might be tiny, but every inch of it is earned. And the view? Dad asked. Perfect for watching sunsets while I knit baby clothes for my favorite niece. Mom started gathering plates, ever the hostess. Should we do the birthday song? Wait, I said. First, I want to thank everyone. Not just for today, but for everything. For letting us make mistakes, learn from them, and grow beyond them. For believing in second chances and real change. And third chances, Addison added with a wry smile. And fourth? The point is, I continued, taking Emma from her, we're stronger now because we broke apart and rebuilt. All of us. Emma chose that moment to plant a sticky kiss on my cheek, drawing laughter from everyone. To new beginnings, Orlando raised his glass again. To earned success, Addison added. To family, Dad said softly. To truth, Mom joined in. To growth, Catherine smiled. To love, Liam squeezed my hand. I looked around at my reformed family. Imperfect, healing, real. Emma squirmed in my arms, reaching for the remnants of her cake. To having your cake and eating it too, I concluded, letting my daughter dive back into the dessert. But only after you've earned it. As everyone laughed and the birthday song finally began, I caught Addison's eye across the room. She mouthed a silent, thank you, and I nodded, knowing we'd both finally found our place. Not in competition, but in harmony.